think it's going.
Yep.
Howdy-ho.
You doing a Mr. Hanky?
That wasn't Mr. Hanky. Your microphone sounds a little bit like it's the room or something like that.
Oh, hang on.
Porch time. Speaking of which, Troy Levitt's feeling more celestial than celestial tonight. Maybe I need more fiber in my diet. I was thinking you were saying you're really feeling sick, but yeah, I mean I get that. The did you see the name of the episode?
Um,
And I
I
took a
don't.
picture of it, but that was something you were going off on over in the thoughtful paints. Thoughtful paints over
Yeah. We were talking about celestial shit. I called it celestial butt sex, but that's a little less YouTube friendly, I guess.
Well, there has to be poo. I mean, the first question has to be poo, right?
Well, no, the first question was blowjob.
Yeah.
They were like, "Do you guys really think that a temple attending Mormon couple is okay to engage in cunnilingus?" I don't fucking ruin sexuality for Mormons any more than it already is. All right, just if some dude's getting head and your comment ruined it, then fuck you.
I think I got it somewhere around here. Although the sharing screen is not. Yeah. We've had a lot of great arcs in this group. Cuddling homies was a personal favorite, but y'all gonna have to step up your game if you want to hold a candle to thoughtful saints. Current celestial butt sex art.
This is so the whole. I blocked out the guy's name, but he had done a post on butt sex because he kept talking about sex in Thoughtful Saints and how I don't know if you can go to heaven if you get blowjobs. And then this guy's like, "Do you guys really think that there's going to be butt sex in the celestial kingdom?" I mean, he said it more like a nerd. He's like, "Will there be anal copulation in the hereafter?" And he's
Well, there was a lot of people genuinely asking the question if like that sort of act, even with your spouse, would get you banned from the Templo.
Yeah, well, and that was he was trying to make this obvious comparison where he's like, "Well, okay, here's how I know that butt sex should get you banned from the temple. Can you picture butt sex in the celestial kingdom?" Holy shit, man. So I got there before Dan Ellsworth did because I was sure he would call it derp. I decided to call it derp.
Dan Ellsworth has this whole thing of calling something derp of people like asking for sources and scriptures for very inane questions.
Well, it reminds me of being in seminary because I pissed off my seminary teacher one time because like the people kept asking questions of like, are we like gonna like since we're immortal in the second coming and stuff, we kind of like jump off cliffs and stuff like that. And it was funny because they kept asking those questions, and this girl raised her hand, and then she put it down. She's like, "Never mind, it's a stupid question." My seminary teacher was like, "No, there are no stupid questions." And I was like, "Okay, hang on just a sec. There are definitely stupid questions. Don't tell people that there aren't stupid questions. Asking things like, can I cut my own head off in the millennium? That's kind of a stupid question. Not because it's not an interesting thought, but because where the fuck are you going to find this in
We already know that.
Or anything like that?
We already know that one from Jack Skellington, right? Since you're dead, you can take
I guess
off
we
your
do.
head.
And so then she's like, "Yeah, I'm not going to ask my question." My teacher got mad at me. So I feel like a kindred spirit with Dan Ellsworth on this whole derp conquest he's on.
Maybe you blocked the spirit though. I've said it here before. I got kicked out of my high school institute. I had a letter written home to my parents, and it said that I was not allowed to keep coming to Institute because I did not allow for the spirit in the classroom. Um, Look at this. This is hot off the presses. Jacob looks like he's challenged another person to a boxing match. What's going on? He's saying to this guy, Johnny Biddle, who is stuck in the Midwest of nowhere, he, him, this space reserved for a witty comment about how if you're looking for my bio, you lost a silly internet argument. Anyway, he says he wants to fight this guy on March 9th, 2024, Sioux City, venue of your choice. I wonder if that one will happen. You seen the stuff going on between Faith Matters and the Thoughtful Saints?
Yeah. Did you see Jackson Washburn weighed in on that?
I actually have his big long clip right.
Yeah, I haven't read it, but I was like, oh joy.
I'll put
I don't know. Every time Jackson Washburn like chimes into anything, I'm like, shut up, nerd. That's my first thought, because I'm like, I don't believe you for a second that you're like, I love hearing different perspectives. I understand the misinformation. Like,
he's got such like a specific vocabulary. Every now and then I drop by this group to share a few thoughts, especially when I see spikes of misinformed claims about the Faith Matters Foundation being made. While it's understandable that the particular flavor, style of content, emphasis might not resonate with everyone, there are times when I honestly can't understand where certain. So he did a live on Thoughtful Saints last week, and I thought it was kind of interesting because he actually did admit that inside of academia where he's at, that they do have like a total left wing bias, and which was pretty surprising to me that he actually admitted that.
Yeah.
But there's Christopher saying, "Bring on the Thoughtful Saints conference." Yeah. Let's see here. So look at this one. So Gordon Monson, who is a local goofy
he's been a newspaper column, like he's been writing little opinion columns. I remember him reading opinion columns in the Tribune in the 90s. He's been around a long time.
I thought he was only sports. All he ever did was sports.
He started out
PK.
He started out as sports, but I remember in the 90s he already started branching out to doing like little opinion pieces, kind of like Andy Rooney in print type stuff.
I only noticed him doing that in the last year, and they all seem to be just like this. Like,
no,
how dare these Mormons not like the gays? But
yeah.
This he posted this up. Did that go to the bigger screen?
Yeah.
Okay. If you're LDS and yearn for an inspired but less stuffy, more inclusive church conference, I found one. And it's that Faith Matters thing that over here on this other place, Jackson's trying to defend here. And if you look at it here, I found this paragraph might sum it up for you.
I guess it just doesn't maybe I just can never relate to these people because I, for the life of me, cannot fathom yearning for any church conference. You know what I'm saying? Like
yes.
Like the only time I ever was excited for General Conference was on my mission because it meant I got to sit in a chapel for like 10 hours on the weekend and eat candy. And that was
100%.
Missions suck so much ass that is then fun.
Yes, I did not enjoy it ever once. And I know I would not enjoy Faith Matters conference either.
Do you yearn for a conference? Fucking no. We got 10 hours of it in a weekend, man.
I made a post. It was a comment on a thread, but somebody posted a picture of Patrick Mason and the Brandon Flowers talking at Faith Matters. And I just put a post imagining what they must have been saying to each other. And it was like, do you think it's good to be nice? Yes, but it's also nice to be good. Yes, but it is also good to be nice. Yes, it is good to be nice.
I don't ever want to hear Brandon Flowers say anything really, because the Killers are probably my favorite band. And I don't want to know.
It's bad to know because, man, I've been struggling with my favorite band because they got so wokish and it really actually affects how I feel about them, which is sad.
What band is that?
Wilco. But I also think they've kind of fallen off the last 3 albums. I think they pump out albums faster than they should.
I have to admit the last few albums haven't grabbed me the way everything else they've ever done has.
Every one of their songs feels like it was just like a half thought, pump it out, half thought. It almost feels like, because I know how Jeff now writes his lyrics. You can even like find a TikTok video about how he writes his lyrics. He does like these word trees and writes them out. He's doing like free thought association. And then like you hear every song and there's kind of just like a single chord progression, and then he lets really good guys wail a little bit behind it. But after a moment, I kind of go, that's just basically the same thing as AI generated songs, if I really think about it.
Pretty much. And just earlier today, I had in my head the opening line from Chrome, because like the devil is Chrome. I mean, like the opening of that song is just so.
When the devil came, yeah. He wasn't red.
Big
he was
pause.
Chrome, and he said, "Yeah."
And then it just throws into that sweet thing. Come with me.
Come with me. Yeah.
Fucking brilliant.
Yeah, I mean their first 5-6 albums were brilliant, but the last 3 or 4 have fallen off.
I mean,
There's one or two good songs on each,
but
I feel like that the last 3 albums are one album, and take those 1 or 2 good songs off of each of them and put it on one album. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I still
But
remember
in the
first
middle
time
of
I
it,
ever
like,
heard, Sunken Treasure. Like,
oh yeah,
that was like, yeah, that was a revelation.
well, you gave me the revelation of
Impossible. Was it
Sky
Impossible Journey? Yeah.
when we might have been intoxicated on something, and
We may or may not have taken some kind of fungal thing.
And I heard Niels bust out in Side with the Seas, and oh my goodness, that solo.
Yeah.
And it was just over. But they haven't done anything like that in the past 3 albums, and in the meantime have dropped a bunch of ham-fisted politics into the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's hard.
Well, that's another thing. Is like, I mean, They Might Be Giants is another one of my favorite bands, and like the They Might Be Giants online communities are 100% woke. I got thrown out of one for the usual thing, because I never remember what it was. Where somebody's like, the like topic, like, which They Might Be Giants song do you think best describes toxic masculinity? Like, oh, you fucker. Yeah.
They'll need a crane. The
one about the alcoholic woman.
Yeah,
I think I probably told this story on here before, but like one of my favorite moments at a show ever was when like all of my hipster puke friends were watching one of my buddies' bands play. They finished their set, and the next band on was a bunch of Venezuelan brothers. They just started shitting on socialism. Like they were actually like 3 brothers from Venezuela, had made it to America, were now citizens, and they're just talking about, this song is about fuck socialism, because we don't like socialism. And there's nothing in the world that confuses a bunch of hipster white kids more than I'm a minority telling that their ideology is shit. Because they're all like, they don't want to boo him, but they don't want to applaud. They just kind of of course I'm in the back like, wah!
I just imagine it'd be like the same effect as like if you started playing like death metal in a sacrament meeting.
Yeah.
It is. Like, it really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Troy says he's going to be at conference with Dawkins and Bill Nye. Wow, that's kind of an interesting mix right now, because I think Dawkins has been kicking it up. He's finally caught on to the culture.
Yeah, I wonder if he removed the person managing his online accounts, because they seem to be less.
Speaking of which,
woke.
Jumping off of something that Rollo Tomasi claims, because he knows them, a lot of people get upset at Jordan Peterson's Twitter, and Tomasi claims that it's been Michaela running his Twitter for 2-3 years. And so
that makes total sense.
That's possible.
Yeah. Let's see here. All right, let's see it. Oh man, McClellan pulled some McClellans this week.
Oh.
Who would have?
I really want to take that meme where we just take that canned response of his and like just
that was great. Whoever came up with that on Thoughtful Saints, I'll
that was
find
great.
it. But he just like had this Dan's typical response. He was answering Elon Musk, and Elon Musk said something about guns are necessary for democracy, and Dan answered, "This is a blood comment of what's his typical stuff?
Ignorant blood comment.
Ignorant.
Far right
misinformation, disinformation, and it goes against what the experts say.
Yeah,
and the guy
and flies in the face of all experts.
Yeah. And the guy took it and realized that you could just type anything in there where what Elon
Yeah.
Musk said. And
Yeah.
I actually wanted to make some, but I haven't had time to do it. But that was a perfect little meme. The guy who came up with that. Christopher's favorite band is a Catholic folk band. That sounds cool. The
A
Innocence Mission.
Catholic, a folk band. Is the band called Catholic?
That's
No, it says Innocence Mission.
Oh,
Great poetry in their lyrics. I'll check them out.
so you weren't
I feel
talking
like
about
y'all
the Catholics
appreciate
from Frank Black and the
Giant
Catholics.
Sand.
I don't know Giant
Yeah, I don't
Sand. I
know
haven't heard of
Giant
these
Sand
guys.
either. I've been listening and practicing for the past couple years, like old timey flat picking, like Tony Rice type music. Let's see here. I think people understand how Marxist the younger generation is. It's true, but there's weird stuff happening with the current thing, man. There's weird stuff happening.
No, I just today, like, because I got a news blurb that Biden had a special Oval Office speech today, and apparently he says like Putin is bad, and like he lumped Putin and Hamas together as two baddies. And I just wonder, like, for the far left, like, what do they do with that? They're like, they must send their head spinning because they're like, wait a second, are you saying that Putin is fighting against a genocidal oppressor?
Yeah,
Like, which one is
there's so many walls for cognitive dissonance in this thing right now. I can't even start on every side of it, really. Like, there's so many different angles of like where different territory lines that have been drawn are getting kind of crunched, because those guys are supposed to hate Putin, but now they're supposed to agree that Hamas is Putin, but they don't want to agree Hamas is Putin. And one of Dan McClellanisms this week was he's talking about how indigeneity isn't necessary for colonialism, which of course they have to pull up that line to make sense of the Israel thing. And
like the fact that there is no historical Palestine, that is entirely a construct of the last century.
And that under typical colonialism, you would have to look at it and say the Jews were the colonized ones, and the land back stuff. The land back stuff, which doesn't make any sense, but it did happen in one place in the world.
Land back to this group of people who were at the land at exactly this time, and who are brown enough for us to look good.
Yeah, and that's one of the things Dan was arguing against. But at the same time, he linked to this other TikToker. Maybe I'll pull him up. But he was a windbag who obviously isn't even very, I would say, like, academically trained, but because he's of color and says the right things, Dan has to defer to him to say indigeneity isn't necessary for colonialism.
I hate that word. Oh man, all these words that they're making. Indigeneity. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
At least it's not indigenousness. That would be really stupid,
but then the word colonialism,
indigenosity would make a lot more sense.
How about indigenous conversations?
Indigenous, bro.
We need to engage in more indigenous conversationality.
That was an indigenous wave you caught, bro. Speaking of which, I have a picture of it, but I took a plane with Pauly Shore. I flew down to Vegas, and there was Pauly Shore on the plane next to me, and I was like, bro, indigenous. Did you know the caveman that you found were the first people here? But they were probably colonizers too, bro.
Pauly Shore is interesting in that, like, for almost my entire life, I just wrote him off as like, oh, he's that horrible hack that was like all over the place for a few years in the 90s and gratefully disappeared. And I just had a low view of him. But then, like, when I watched the interview with him with Joe Rogan, I was like, he seems like a really cool dude. Like,
yeah, he's been cool with falling out of the limelight for sure.
Yeah, and, like he seems like kind of an awesome dude. And then, like, I never even knew the whole story about how, like, he grew up in the Comedy Store.
His mom was the Comedy Store runner.
Yeah, and it's like, and like it's just kind of weird. I mean, I had the same thing with 20 years ago when Sammy Hagar was interviewed on the early Adam Carolla podcast. Because I never listened to Van Halen. I could give two fucks about Van Hagar and the controversy and all that, and like just saying it was like, he's sang in that butt metal band that I never cared about. But like listening to him talk for 3 hours, I was like, God, he seems like a really cool dude.
It's the same with David Lee Roth.
Yeah,
like people like David Lee Roth almost took over for Howard Stern, who I actually had some clips this week. I don't know if we get around to them, of actually Steve-O daring to call out Howard Stern for being a sellout, which was
I saw that.
Steve-O, and he was along with Mark Norman, which Mark Norman's one of the best comics around nowadays. He's always been true down the line, but let's read here real quick so I can get this off the screen. What Jackson has to say to defend faith matters. I can understand if one is doggedly set on determining the bounds of proper LDS faith and practices squarely right of center, something that neither the church nor the brethren themselves mandates or pushes for. That anything closer to the center might be subject to accusations of wokeness, apostasy, liberal mania, Marxism, or any other host of ghoulish and ill-defined buzzwords. Personally, I benefit from consuming from a range of voices.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I consume from all sorts of voices. It's indigenous, man. And content from within the restoration, spanning from public square and fair Latter-day Saints to scriptural center and desert. How do Dan, like anybody who's been through divinity school, how do they not bore themselves? Like, how do they not just like look in the mirror and say, "You bore me, you bore me"? Desert news to dialogue and more rather than in competition. I see them as part of a needed and beautiful tapestry which bolsters and nourishes Latter-day Saint identity, faith, and community. All right. After listening to that boring thing,
essay,
I'm now back on board with Ben Shapiro streaking into the void because I need some sort of passion.
Oh man, yeah, I can't.
I think Shapiro's handler should tell him to take a month off. I do right now. I'm like, dude.
Oh yeah, he needs
Sit it out. Sit it out for a minute. Sit it out.
But he would then tell you that by virtue of telling him that you're being anti-Semitic and actively calling for the genocide.
Yeah, he's just too much on the level of either you agree with every single thing he says, or you've revealed yourself as a Jew hater too.
I mean, it'd be tough. Like I'll give him that. It would be tough to be level-headed about this when you got people you know in Israel.
Do you know that for the first time ever, his top pinned tweet was always on Twitter? Facts don't care about your feelings. And guess what he took down?
Whoa.
Yeah.
What, is it something about Israel now, I'm guessing?
It's probably something about Israel, but I think the bigger picture is like he kind of admitted, like, I'm going to take down this facts feelings thing because.
Oh yeah.
He's feeling a lot lately.
How Gelb and Giant Sand, which affected a bunch of people like Matt Ward and Calexico. Avenged Sevenfold. We got metal. Man, I'll play on here. I'm gonna record it, but I've been getting down Holy Wars by Megadeth on my acoustic, and I'm gonna rip it out. I'm gonna show everybody like, here's Holy Wars from Dave Mustaine. I really do have the whole song down. I'll bust it out for all y'all.
I don't even know the song.
Oh, it's a straight slasher metal song about we're all gonna die because of Israel. But anyway, he's just not Israel's fault, but videos. What's going on?
A lot of videos of people playing heavy metal on totally clean electric guitar. It just sounds so silly.
Oh, I'm doing it on an acoustic all the way, man. It's indigenous, man. Yeah, it's cheesy. But the whole song, one of my favorite, back when the Onion was good, one of my favorite Onion jokes ever was they put up a picture of Megadeth's Rust in Peace, and it says, people still making art as if Megadeth's Rust in Peace wasn't already invented. You know, it ended all art. What are you doing? Let's see here. Should we get into we already kind of covered the Hanson. Anything else going on in that? Well, to talk about the Marxist stuff, there was a little clip from the goofy Midnight Mormons who are stream sniping us again here in 5 minutes. I'm gonna beat your ass, Carden. The talking about Marxism, and they claim that people who describe movies as woke have overstepped it, and they're saying all sorts of movies that aren't woke are woke, like the new Indiana Jones and like Barbie.
Who said that?
This is what the Midnight Mormon said.
Wait, did they say Barbie?
Yes, and I'm listening to them like, what do you guys even think woke is? Did you guys ever even have like a general concept of what it actually is?
You might be able to make a case for Indiana Jones. You can't, but you could try because it's slightly more veiled. The wokeness is more like Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character is just a man. They're trying to make it seem like she's basically interchangeable with men. She's a sex hound. She's an asshole. She's taken over for the incompetent man, Indiana Jones. There's a lot of ways it's more subtly woke, but fucking Barbie is a feminist manifesto, and an obscure one too. Like what an absurd one too, because it takes everything that they pretend is true about the patriarchy and dials it to 11. Women aren't allowed to do anything in that movie.
The thing is, like, because like, sure, there are some things where it's like, could it be woke, or like, could something appear woke that is actually just happens to be that story. Like, there are some things where you're like, okay, maybe there's like some plausible deniability there, except that the studios all already announced that this is where they're going. They've said why. They've given their justifications. That like their actors and actresses go on tour and they say exactly why they're doing and why. It's like, that's how we know it's woke, because they fucking told us so.
There's that, and so there's a few tropes that everybody's got to know, because obviously you guys never even knew what wokeness really was, especially when it came to films. But one of the tropes is the hero's journey. It's one of the biggest ones. The hero's journey is the hero, the female.
Or the non-journey, as I like to call it.
The non-journey is she's already great. She just has to realize it. And she doesn't need this old, decrepit man to teach her anything. In fact, she already knows better than him. And he just needs to get out of the way so she can take the franchise from here.
That was already a bad story even before it was like an identity politics story. The only thing you need to do is realize how great you are. There's like so many stupid anime plots where it's like, I know you're strong enough, believe in yourself, and then he just shrieks and he is strong enough. That was Kenobi. Kenobi he was inept with the Force, and he couldn't even lift up a 10-year-old girl with the Force, and then he's fighting Vader, getting bombarded with boulders. All of a sudden he believes in himself. He just like miniguns a bunch of pebbles at Vader.
So another trope of wokeness is stunt casting. Like, you could point at the Barbie movie with that and see, like, well, we got to put in all these people and call them Barbies of every color, shape, race, and form. Oh, and even a trans Barbie in there. Stunt casting which is coming up in the new South Park in a few days. You might get a picture of what they mean by wokeness is wow, we need to make this updated for diverse audiences, like they did for Snow White. Those freaking Daily Wire people. I mean Disney. Just kidding.
So did you see the Barbie movie ends with her? She becomes a woman and she goes to the office and she's like, I'm going to the gynecologist because I have a vagina and real women have vaginas. Yeah. And I want an after the credits scene where the trans Barbie goes to the gynecologist.
Yeah.
Wait.
So then another
trans Barbie. They don't have nuts. They don't have anything. Just a smooth patch. I don't understand. Yeah.
Another trope is, well, first off, it's kind of covered in the first one, but the old white man is now going under some sort of PTSD for their terribly lived toxic life. And they realize that they've just been a complete loser hack in the end. And they're just wanting to shrivel up and die. Does it sound like Luke Skywalker, anybody? Or we can name 15 different things. Even in some of the movies you thought were good, it's there. It was in the Mad Max. It was in that Wolverine movie. You know, it's there, and they need to pass that on to this young woman that they're just mesmerized with, like Han Solo. Oh, you fixed it. You bypassed the whatever thing. But that's there and all this stuff. Then another thing that's wokeness is getting away from some sort of nuclear family and finding a found family. Like, look for that in everything. There's found family, and your original nuclear whatever family dropped you, let you go, got rid of you, or whatever, and now you got to go find your found family. I just saw that.
Zero romance.
Yeah, that was in, and I liked the movie, but that was in Puss in Boots, 100%. And that was also in, I watched the most recent Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which I guess it's just X-Men now, because Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is Splinter is basically Professor X. The Turtles are mutants, and then Bebop and all those bad guys are mutants, but they're mutants who want to kill the humans. And the Turtles are mutants who also hate the humans,
Oh, really?
who might kill the Splinter and the Turtles hate humans too. But they
Was
say,
there
well,
ever anything in the original series about any kind of class thing between humans and
Oh,
mutants?
Christ.
no,
Was
no,
that
they just made it
did that
X-Men.
ever
It's just
come up?
no, you started out, the only time you ever first get introduced in Turtles, it's not a backstory of their birth, is them being secret saviors of humans.
Yeah.
You know, they pop out of the shadows to save a person. They pop out of the shadows to help a person.
Yeah, 'cause
And
that's one of those things where even though I was the exact age when Turtles came out, even as a kid, I was like, "This show's dumb." And like,
yeah.
I never watched it. Weird, like for some reason, I was just immune to Turtles for some reason. And it's funny because like as I got older, like a lot of my peers are like, "No, actually, if you dig into the lore in the comics, it's really good." And I'm like, "Oh, I guess I missed out."
So I
But
like that comic. The Last Ronin was really good, but I do remember the same thing when I was a kid and watched the live action movies. I was like, I mean, they look kind of goofy. They're in
Yeah.
costumes.
Yeah. I loved the Turtles when I was young. They've fumbled the ball a bunch of times. If you want to listen to some really good lore on Turtles, both the Angry Video Game Nerd does a great like deep dive into the cartoon series, and then Razor Fist does a bunch of good coverage of the better versions of Turtles
Yeah.
out there.
Because I know that Freddie, what's his bucket, the professional comic book guy that's on Red Letter Media sometimes. There's an episode where they're talking about a Ninja Turtle movie, and he talks about how like the original comics were not for kids.
No, they were
And that it
murderous,
was
super
yeah.
murderous, just like Daredevil. Actually, originally they got turned into turtles from the same ooze that turned the Daredevil blind. But
Daredevil wasn't blind.
Daredevil got turned blind from ooze.
Oh, you're saying they're from the same universe?
Yeah, the same ooze that turned him blind as a
I
kid
had
oozed down and turned the turtles into the turtles.
I never saw Daredevil, but I
Oh,
never
man, it was
Daredevil
great.
is violent. It's
You gotta
super
watch
violent.
watch
Huh.
both the movie, the Ben Affleck movie, and then the series.
Yeah, compare those.
No, seriously, the movie's one of my favorite bad movies ever. It's amazing.
bad.
It
Ben
is
Affleck is
so
interesting
bad.
because like
and
Ben
then the
Affleck
TV
is
show's
capable
good.
of being really, really good, but most of the time he's pretty crap.
He's a good actor. Not in this. Nobody's good in this. Like
Oh.
everything about it is terrible, but it's so campy and amazing.
Ben Affleck's right about 50-50. Yeah, I mean he does some
Yeah.
good stuff.
He did a good job as Batman. He was the only thing I didn't.
It sounds
You ever
so
seen-
weird to me. Like when I heard that, I'm like, what?
Well,
Have you ever
But, I
seen
mean, I never saw
Gone
the movie
Girl?
that people said
the
they
movies just sucked around him, right?
Oh,
I
yeah.
hated Batman vs Superman is one of the worst movies ever. It's such dog shit.
I like it when you say the movie sucked around. I was like, I would love to see Adam Driver as Rilo Kiley or whatever. the hell
all
Kylo
the
is,
yeah.
casting,
but in a good movie, because like
all
that
the
would have been great.
casting of all the Star Wars was fine with me everywhere. Even
Yeah.
Rey, like initially, like casting's fine with
Yeah,
me.
no, the
Like
casting
a
was
girl can be the thing that comes up. All she needs to have done is be trained by a Jedi like Yoda or Luke, like not
Make it
be
a story.
like,
Yeah.
You don't know what was hilarious is that I actually saw somebody posting about how crazy it was that Finn's best friend as a stormtrooper got murdered, and his reaction was to immediately just go join the people that murdered his best friends.
yeah, that's
And
so dumb.
Well, and then what I realized after that was I was like, oh, I remember being excited about the idea of a defecting stormtrooper. That's going to be an interesting story. And then 3 movies later, I forgot about it until I saw this meme. I was like, oh yeah, he was a stormtrooper. There was no fucking reason for him to be a stormtrooper. He just takes the helmet off and then he's done. That's it.
That's why I was just visiting a friend yesterday, and like last year, she recommended that show on HBO. What is it? The Gilded Age.
Oh man, that drives me crazy because
And
it could be so good.
So
and
because like
it's
because I
not.
told her like I watched the first episode, and I
watched
had
the first
and I had this
season.
conversation with her. It's like and like I like the thing that stood out with me is like I remember the scene where he screws the guy out of the railroad deal, And I remember that scene, and it stuck in my mind. And I was talking about like that's how that's a good scene because like I can
That's
remember
where it
that.
should be at,
And
that times 100.
Well, there's the whole point. It's like I was like, and I started remembering other things. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. They're like, she's new money. They're building that thing, and like, and then there's the old money, and they're the rivals. And I started like remembering all these details from the show I saw. Even though I don't remember everything, a lot of it came back to me. And then I had this thought, like in the moment, and I said it to her. I'm like, I can remember nothing from any Transformers movie. I cannot recall a single plot line from any of those movies.
You need to watch Transformers 4.
Oh, really?
You need to watch the cartoon
it's insane.
Transformers.
Transformers 4 does not like I don't remember anything about any movie except for this one because it doesn't follow any formula. It's bizarre. The main villain like leaves like really early on in the movie. He comes back and then he's like killed halfway through the movie. And there's this amazing scene where like Mark Wahlberg is the main character in that one, and he's supposed to be an inventor, right? But like his inventions are shit, you know. Like he's got this. There's this guy that invented a Decepticon replicant. Like he makes Decepticons in a factory, but they're mindless and they do his bidding. Mark Wahlberg appeals to him as two fellow inventors. He's like, look, but he finally finds his humanity, like inventor to inventor. But like all he's invented up to this point is like this goofy ass. It has a toaster for a head, and it like it's worse than Tony Stark's robot. It like is supposed to hand him things, but it just sets shit on fire. He's a terrible inventor. He's got this great, it's amazing, my favorite chase scene ever in a movie where he's running away from a guy and they're on building tops and he just falls and then he's trying to jump on air conditioning units on the outside of the building and they just start breaking off and he just like, for a weird amount of time, it's not even supposed to be funny. He just like starts smacking his way down the side of this building, hitting various air conditioning units. It's amazing.
I heard that the standalone one about the Beetle Transformer was supposedly good too. It's like high rated on whatchamacallit, on Rotten Tomatoes. Not that thing means anything.
I mean, I got no desire to watch any of them anymore.
Let's see what some of these people are saying. A bunch of people recommending the other shows. Matt Warden, Calexico. Christopher is into Decemberists. Jared said he's down with Decemberists. Christopher said he's into the band Indigenatious Dude. Just kidding. Dude. He's just Google and the Goblin. I don't know what he's talking about.
The Detectives is a good show. That's a great show. It's British character drama.
Did you watch the interview with Father Ted that I sent over to the group?
Mm-mm.
The Father Ted guy, Linneman, the writer of Father Ted, he was interviewed.
Oh no, I didn't get to see that. I wanted to see that because that guy is a hero.
Yeah, I shared it to the group. He was interviewed by the guy who does the fake Twitter account, who's McCarthy, whatever his name is. He did
Tatiana McGrath.
Tatiana McGrath.
For Rice, Anna Kasparian, talking about Anna Kasparian pushed back on Snow White, and that thing's like there has been, like, is Anna turning?
I don't.
Has the link given up that?
She has like for the last 2 months. I keep seeing from all these different things, people going.
Yeah,
like,
she's basically turning.
Anna's like she seems like she's turning.
You want to know what it is? It's the old joke, as they say, is how do you get a neocon? You take a lefty and have them mugged.
Yeah,
and that's basically what happened to Anna Kasparian. She supposedly actually was kind of mugged and kind of half raped. She humped it.
They like humped at her. They were.
Yeah.
Wow.
But she started doing some. She doesn't like the birthing person thing, which who does?
She's acknowledging that biological woman is a scientific category of person.
She also admitted that she had been completely misled and didn't even look at the whole story on the Kenosha thing with the.
I don't understand it. Like I want to extend some grace.
It's like if you're a journalist, you can't say you were misled.
No, I know. That's
the
whole
fucking
thing.
Journalist.
I want to extend some grace here. Every time I hear her talk about like the Rittenhouse thing, because everybody's like, yeah, see, she's based on Rittenhouse. And I was like, okay, how did she miss that? They're like, well, everybody told her wrong stuff. Like, no, she's the one telling people stuff. And first off, that was pretty much obviously a self-defense case right away. Then the more shit came out, the more it became
in 30 minutes.
Yeah,
Twitter had all the video. Twitter knew everybody's names. Twitter had their criminal records. Reddit. Sorry, Reddit. Reddit had completely cracked that case inside a half an hour. It was amazing.
Yeah, well, and
Sorry.
then she watched she was like covering the court case. I don't know how you can watch that much of the court case
Yeah.
and not understand. Well, obviously this is self-defense.
Yeah, no, but it's like she had a job as a guest professor in journalism at, what was it, Columbia?
Still
Where
does.
it's like, okay, what does it mean to verify a source, Anna? Like, question 1, journalism 101.
And I can't wait for her to have a discussion with Dave Rubin. All of the absolute shit she has given him over the years for being a grifter. And he might be a grifter. I don't know. I haven't watched a whole lot.
I thought like in the perfect future, Anna Kasparian renounces leftism, wokeism, and Dave Rubin renounces homosexuality, and they get married and become Catholics.
But one of the things
away.
What's trippy about them isn't she Armenian too? Like,
yeah, she's Armenian. And
they have all that stuff about the
If a name ends in AIN or YAN, 98% probability it's an Armenian.
Oh, really?
That's
I
like
didn't even realize.
No, she actually has Armenian. Like, she speaks Armenian too. Like,
does she?
Yeah, she does.
Wow.
That Armenian
the alphabet is so
cleansing.
goofy.
That Armenian ethnic cleansing that happened just in the last year or two. I had
No, I mean,
idea
it's happening. The Azerbaijanis just basically pushed
200,000 of them.
200,000 of them off of that exclave. But that whole enclave exclave thing going on in Central Asia is nuts. It's like there are Uzbek exclaves in Tajikistan and Tajiki exclaves in Kazakhstan, and like if you look at a map of all of them, there's dozens, hundreds peppered all over the place. It's really weird.
Okay, folks, focusing on any of that stuff is anti-Semitic. Okay, talking about any of that.
What?
This is wildly anti-Semitic and the worst thing I've ever heard.
What are you talking about? Of course, we can talk about the Armenians, but first we need to take care of the Hamas. Okay. Barbie just shows how much the fuck
Stereotyping Jews is terrible.
That's one of the things that's driving me crazy is because like you have the neocons kind of neoconning once again because there's all this stuff and we watched it. I watched in real time the stuff with that hospital and I realized really quick like, oh boy, let's get on this roller coaster. I'm not going to know the truth at all. I'm just going to ride this roller coaster of this guy says this guy says this guy says this. And I just watched it all in real time of all the narratives changed 1,000 times. And I was actually pretty shocked to find out the next morning that turns out didn't really happen at all, folks. Bomb
went off in a parking lot close to a hospital.
Yeah, and that was a wild ride. And it
is like, I mean, right now in the balance with my limited scope, the Hamas rocket misfire does seem to be the most likely explanation for that.
Well,
I think that's what it is. I think that's what it is. That's actually.
I mean, it does not make sense for targeting a hospital does not help Israel's goals.
But I think the fact that 500 weren't killed is why we'll find out the truth about it because they'll ultimately come to a point of just saying, "Oh, okay, we can admit this because there's not anything that big at stake anymore."
It was only 340, and that's right under the line of the number that we care about.
Thank God it wasn't 380. That would have.
But I don't think it can be more than a dozen, really, actually. But we already learned this week that we count human lives in comparison to how big a population is. So if there's 3 million Jews and there's 300 million of us, if you kill one person, you know that's 300 of us.
We're talking about terrorism per capita.
That's how they're counting stuff. They keep saying like this is Israel's 9/11. In fact, it's worse than 5 9/11s because it was this percentage of our population. And you keep going like, what are you guys talking about? It was 1,200 people. It was 1,200 people.
A long time ago, I came up with what I don't know if I came up with it, but I called it gruesome arithmetic. And and this is what I call it. Gruesome arithmetic is when you're counting bodies and trying to say like, wow, this one counts as more than that one. You know,
that's totally it. And that actually kind of goes
worse than that one because they got disemboweled.
Like that goes in line with kind of like a current thing. Have you heard of like girl math?
Girl math.
Have you heard of it?
I've
Girl
seen it.
math.
but-
Girl math. Yeah, I bet you could guess what it is. But girl math is the concept of like it. First off, if you pay with cash, it didn't cost anything because you had the cash, so it didn't cost. Second off is what you've saved. What supposedly the thing didn't cost. Like the thing. This is my ex-wife did this all the time. If something was $1,200, but it was initially $2,000. She saved you $800 by buying the thing.
Yeah,
Like
you made
and
$800 on that deal.
you made $800, and you're like, but we weren't ever gonna buy the thing. No, we
Yeah.
made 800. We got $800 back for buying this. Like, no, no.
And then
no.
anything that cannot be explained away is offset by emotional blank, whatever it is. It's emotional labor, it's emotional maturity, whatever it is. It's okay, but you can't deny I backed you into a corner. We did this thing for you. It's like, well, I perform all the emotional labor in the relationship. What the fuck do you mean? Like, well, yeah, you make all the money, but I listen to you talk about your problems. So
Look at this. It was
There.
enough that CNN had to do a thing on it. Girl math was a fun social media joke. Then it got complicated.
And then it got complicated. No. What happened is your feelings got hurt.
look, you could put "kill all men" in your bio and be fine. All right, you
Yeah.
can get over a little bit of a fucking girl joke. Just
Like,
God.
you know what I was thinking about? I was listening to Mary Harrington, and she's talking about men and like the difference between men and women. I remember, and she used the phrase, what was it? Chest thumping grunting, And I didn't get upset. I'm like, no, that fits. Like, that's kind of how men are. Maybe it's not a positive thing. Maybe we shouldn't be proud of it, But like, yeah, that's part of masculinity. And you know what is a part of femininity? Being shit at math. There you go.
Yeah, here's like one of them. They say is like you got to spend enough to get free shipping because otherwise you're kind of losing money, right?
Yeah. No,
Um,
you know what gets me though, because like I'm guilty of girl math. What happens
Yeah.
to me is that I don't order any food on food delivery apps, and they send me a thing where it's like, hey, 50% off if you spend $25, and I'm like, well, no, I have to do it. And then like after the fees and taxes, delivery and tip, I'm like, wait a second, I just spent $2 more than if I had just. But yeah.
We're gonna get into this tonight because I'm gonna get off of all subjects entirely, and we're gonna go into something called from a podcast called "Are You Garbage?" And we're gonna ask some questions and figure out if we're garbage.
Yeah.
And I want to come up with the "Are you Mormon garbage?"
Would you
list
like
of
me to
questions.
save you some time?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, we got to find out. But the questions are funny, so we'll get to
Yeah.
it.
Let's.
But, first, we got to figure out the Middle East.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Fix that.
Coming now. I'm still going nuts though, because like I don't know, like I mean, is all the criticism of Israel, like an awful lot of it sure is valid, and like the whole ethno-state thing. Let me tell you, I got big problems with that. But still, like this whole week, I have not heard a single left-wing media outlet or commentator mention whatsoever at all the existence of the Hamas Charter.
Yeah.
Where they say that it is their goal to fight and die until there are no Jews in Palestine. Like that to me seems like a critical piece of information to help people understand what exactly is going on here. But like, nope, somehow it doesn't come up.
They played.
I keep getting crap because I keep making the joke at work when people talk about it because everybody's a geopolitical expert now. I'm like, oh well, I still don't understand why we gave them the piece of land surrounded by people they hate. Maybe we should have just given them like, I don't know, North Dakota or something like that. And it's funny because like it's a lot more complicated than that, obviously. But every single one of them, their response is, well, in the Bible, that's their land. It's like, I don't fucking care. All right. Yeah. If I'm the world leader or whatever that's doling out land for the Jews and they're like, we would like this land surrounded by people we hate and we would like you to fund all of our defenses forever, I'd be like, well, no, have this land surrounded by people that aren't going to genocide you. And if they were like, But my holy book said, I don't shut the fuck up. I don't care.
If we're going biblically, then Israel needs to be in the Nile River Delta, which, that's a terrible idea. But also, like, the thing is, like, you don't even have to go biblically. Like, we know historically that the Jewish homeland is in the Middle East, where Israel is. But, like, is that really the criteria? I mean, who decides this shit?
This is the best answer I heard was by Curtis Yarvin. He just came up with one, and he said, "Get the weird Chinese to build one of their mega crap cities right around in here, build it up, say all you guys can go in there, and then as soon as they're in there, gift it to Egypt. This is yours."
This is another thing where it's like that, like, this seems to be totally left out. It's like, why? Like, because that's the thing is, like, people are like, Israel has imprisoned Gaza. They've built walls. They won't let them out. Like, yep. And you know who else has? Egypt.
Have you seen Egypt's walls? They're 10 times worse.
Does anybody wonder why won't Egypt allow Gazan refugees to settle in Egypt? Why?
Well, Lebanon.
Anybody want to ask that question?
No dice. Lebanon says no dice too.
Tell me why. Why does Egypt not want Hamas?
Because they don't want terrorists operating on their land because it invites reprisals.
I think what you're saying is that they're fucking bigots.
Oh, that's right. No, they're Trump-loving capitalists over there in Egypt.
MAGA Egyptians.
I forgot about that.
They are MAGA Egyptians because they're pushing back against the Black Cleopatra narrative so hard that they're actually suing. So of course they're MAGA bigots.
So the walls that don't work, the entire wall right here across the Egypt border,
walls don't work, by the way,
has
that's a Biden.
20 meters below ground. You know,
I wish I thought of that. Like, whenever the leftist says, like, Israel built a wall around Gaza, I'll be like, don't you know walls don't even work?
Yeah.
You need to pull that one. I hadn't thought of that.
They can put a ladder on top of the wall. Duh.
Yeah. Or dig tunnels. Tunnels work.
A tunnel. 70 feet under the ground.
I was gonna pull this up though. Well, let's see what some people are saying here. Let's catch up here. Anna Kasparian had a good pushback with Snow White. Barbie, just to show how effed up the feminists have ruined our world. They tried to make it cool, but it was a sarcastic nightmare and had the exact opposite effect that they desired. But some people could appropriate it, incorporate it into their own interpretations. Steve says, my daughter gave a sacrament talk based on the Barbie movie. Afterwards, the Relief Society president said it was even better than the General Conference talk. Nice. She said, join Faith Matters, yo. My favorite dude was Shredder, but that's it. I never got into it. Well, that's part of the problem. The new movies, like there was all this stuff where they like had to make Shredder not Asian because you can't make the bad guy Asian, but then you whitewash the Asian and he just can't appease anybody in that stuff. Rilo Kiley, the detector, she is super turning. They got the flip. Needs further contest. Okay, let me pull up this thing that happened with Dan Carlin real quick. Did you guys follow any of the John DeLynn stuff this week about the Lori Vallow and Daybell stuff?
No, I didn't.
We'll talk about that too a little bit here before we go into just having fun.
I was busy sorting out the Middle East.
Yeah, that's part of the problem. There's so much crap in the world right now. That's half of why I kind of feel like just having more fun talking about movies that aren't woke, according to the Midnight Mormons, who have every reason in the world to call them woke. And
so the Spider-Man game comes out tonight at 10. And so after we're done here, that's what I'm going to be doing. That one was fun because they made Mary Jane have an underbite.
Speaking of which, yeah, April O'Neil on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh yeah, she's frumpy as hell.
Oh yeah. This is a total non sequitur. The more something that I randomly learned this week in my random learnings. Have you guys ever heard of power ships?
No.
Did you know that much of West Africa gets their power provided by ship-borne power plants that are leased from Turkey? They literally take the Turks buy giant old cargo ships, convert them into floating power plants, and then they anchor offshore of places like Ghana and the Gambia and whatnot, and these provide an enormous segment of power production in West Africa. And like, it's one of those things like, how have I never heard of this before?
It's
But
crazy.
yeah, this is a thing.
It reminds me. Have you seen anything about like all of the boats floating off of Argentina that are Chinese, and there's so much of them that you can like see it at night in like a huge island, because all the Chinese just camp outside of Argentina on their boats forever.
I've never heard of Chinese boats on Argentina. There's a
Check it out,
Welsh
look it
colony
into.
in Argentina. That's a weird thing because there's
Look
two
into
places in the world where
because-
Welsh is spoken: Wales and Argentina.
The Chinese boat island out there, and it's permanent, is big enough to be
What
like
are they doing?
just basically fishing in those waters, you know, kind of going over there and scalping it themselves, and
Chinese
and
fishing
so
vessels are doing
permanently
cars
there.
off of- Oh my god!
Yeah.
The shit about the world you never knew.
So check this out.
Critical elements of the left
That's too fast.
have taken narratives that they regularly level at Western nations and enthusiastically applied them to conflict in the Middle East. This puts moderates like Carlin in the awkward position of attempting
it
to
slow or is he
validate
just slow
progressive
talker?
concerns while
What?
It sounds slow. Is he that slow?
I just
of a
put it
talker?
in normal. You want me to speed up a bit?
No, just verify. Wow, that's really normal. Okay.
Well,
not very long.
he started it out on. Here's the thing. He started,
I started
it
out
on
fast and
time
then,
and a
yeah.
half, and
Yes,
anytime you
but-
do that, watch a live stream and go a
Oh, it
little bit
messes
further
me up.
back. Yeah, if you do it on like, because I do Mormon stories on double time, and then
Oh,
if I ever
man.
catch up to the live, the second I catch up to the live, they sound retarded.
Yeah, and I can't do it.
You
Like
know what?
I really can't do it.
I'm
But
like,
I can't.
"Ugh."
Mormons were
I
smart.
can't do
You
it
know
to
what they
us,
do?
and I recommend it to everybody. Listen to us. Like if you listen
If-
to us and
you know what the
speedy
church
time,
should
it's
do
better
is-
too.
They should record general conference ahead of time, make it twice as long, and then broadcast it in double speed.
Oh man, General Conference I could listen to in triple speed. I really could.
Oh Lord.
No, I'm not. That's not an exaggeration.
I know it's not.
still making an argument for Israel's right to protect its own existence. In one exchange on Twitter, Carlin attempted to answer a fan who asked why Israel should not be made to end its status as an ethno-religious state and create one unified nation that embraces plurality and equal rights for all. The podcaster explained, quote, okay, if they go that route, then they quickly lose control of their own country via birth rates and the ballot box. Can you see why they might not be too enthusiastic about what to them looks like conquest via democracy? End quote. The only thing more...
So that's part of why the right-wingy types are losing their minds at Shapiro and a lot of different people, because like basically they support everything for Israel that you get called a bigot for wanting in the United States in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And
This is the thing, though. It's like, because I don't know, because I don't like ethno states. The whole concept is goofy. But like with the Jews, I kind of get it. But they were kind enough to, from the beginning, their constitution guarantees religious rights and equal rights for everyone. They just say this is a place for Jews, where Jews can Jew, unmolested. You know, so like that for me is out, because if it was like, you know, if their constitution is, you know, we're a Jewish state, fuck everyone else, and it'd be like, all right, bomb the shit out of them, fuck you. But you know, from the beginning, and they've demonstrated that throughout the history of their country, like, if, you know, kind of like as America, like, we don't care what you believe, we care how you act, as long as you can abide by the rules, welcome, you know. So it's a tough one for me, because yeah, just like I said, I'm deeply concerned with any ethno state. But after World War II, you can kind of understand why people say, like, how about we make a patch of ground where nobody bothers these people anymore? Look how it's worked out, though.
Yeah.
look at this. They're live streaming on Indiana Jones, saying Indiana Jones was Mormon. Well, you better worry about how woke that most recent movie was, because the whole point of it was that he was a bad colonizer. Like, that's the wokeness of the Indiana Jones movie that you guys said wasn't ultimately woke. Yes, it was. Half of the movie was talking about the colonization of the
This kind of
his
this kind of
ways.
feels to me like how every Tumblrina in the world puts in her head that, like, she transes everyone in her head canon. Like, here's why Naruto is actually a trans woman.
Yeah.
Christopher Rice says, I think many Jews are already there. I do, but I think they lived as dhimmi, and that's not okay.
What?
Dhimmi, the dhimmi. Dhimmi is an Arabic Quranic word for people of the book. Because like under the Quran, you can be a non-Muslim and a Muslim man, but you have to pay a tax to the Muslim authorities, and you are prohibited from public expressions of religious anything.
Oh.
Yeah. Dhimmi,
huh?
the dhimmi. If you listen to God Saad talks about the dhimmi a lot because his family were dhimmis.
Oh, in Libya. Yeah.
He was in Lebanon, wasn't
Yeah, in Lebanon.
Oh yeah, yeah.
he? One of the things that's been driving nuts about the kind of neoconish turn, though, of maybe Shapiro, even Glenn Beck the other night, or people, Dave Rubin too. These are all kind of people that you thought would kind of like hold like their. There was that meme that people put out about the concluder and the truther. Maybe I should pull that meme up real quick. But the showing Bausch, I had that meme just earlier today. But anyway, they say this is like Israel's 9/11, so we should allow them to react like we did on 9/11. And you kind of go, wait a minute, I thought the lesson we learned from 9/11 is we kind of overreacted on 9/11, you know? So using that as the justification for what they're about to do is the problem there. You know, like that's what we're saying is like, hey, we kind of went hog wild last time we got this upset.
Who are you to tell them not to go to war with somebody who might not have done anything and nuke the world?
Yeah. And that's, I mean, just them just jumping right back on some of these harsh neocon arguments has been frustrating. I think Dave Smith stayed kind of true north on this stuff, because if you watch his critiques of Shapiro, because Shapiro's just lost his mind, maybe you can say, oh, I understand Shapiro losing his mind, but at the same time, like, that is not the dude we should be running around getting behind, as if Israel needed a 5'8" squealing little guy to help them. Yeah.
I mean, the way Kyle Dunnigan does Shapiro so perfectly brilliant, because I just love how he just makes him little, like just overall he's small.
Oh, yeah, he's
like,
very tiny.
He sits on Biden's lap and looks like
Sir, this makes me wildly uncomfortable.
And he just released a new one this week too.
Yeah, no, but like that's the thing that I love about, because like I don't know, I was gonna say like, well, you can. It brings me back to the whole thing. Norm Macdonald talking about Alec Baldwin's Trump. You know, where Norm Macdonald says like, you know, you can't do an imitation of someone you don't like, because people like themselves. You know, which is why Alec Baldwin's Trump is such shit, because Alec Baldwin hates Trump, and so, you know, like it's not a caricature. I mean, it is it's not. That's what I should say. It's a caricature, not an impersonation. You know, whereas
Shane Gillis's Trump is spot on.
Yeah.
Is it? I've never seen it.
It's the best Trump I've ever seen.
But it's because he also kind of has an affinity for Trump.
Yeah,
well, the thing is, because like I don't like Trump as a politician. But I appreciate the good values of Trump. Like, he is funny. Like, Trump can be genuinely funny from time to time, you know, and that's the thing. Because I was trying to think, because because like Kyle Dunnigan's impersonation of Nancy Pelosi, it's hard to see the positive there. But on the other hand, like, frankly, like, anybody who sees good in Nancy Pelosi, I have to question, because like I can understand somebody saying like, can say three nice things about Trump and say, I still don't think that guy should have any political power, whereas like, can anybody say three nice things about Nancy Pelosi?
Yeah, well, maybe it's not so much that you have to like them as you have to not ontologically hate them.
Yeah, you
have to not think, like it's like watching an apologist do an impersonation of an anti-Mormon. Every time they talk about anti-Mormons, it's absurd.
We just have to just reference Cardin, reference everything Cardin ever said about anti-Mormons. Insert here.
I took that meme and I put Dave Smith and Shapiro's heads on, because Shapiro's on the Jewish side is the immediate concluder, and the Dave Smith is the wait for the facts truther. I think Dave's been pretty down the line on this one, because like he's also friends with Scott Horton, but like he's also kind of backed off going all the way Scott Horton too. You know what I mean? And he waits for the facts to come out and stuff, and then he kind of critiques some of the hot takes that Shapiro's taken, but at the same time, he's a Jewish guy, and he's he's not like in love with Palestine or Hamas or anything like that.
Dave Smith
but-
is Jewish.
Yeah,
Oh.
both of them on that podcast are Jewish. And so that's why it's kind of interesting when they kind of like, all right, they're libertarians. So they say slow your roll with this stuff, but at the same time, they're not going to be like, well, we're for Palestine.
Yeah, like what I'm just imagining, like, because what if we went back in time and you still had your kind of normie wokey drummer and your Jewish guitar player?
Yeah.
Like, how would that go? Because normie wokey
Oh,
drummer
man.
would have to be on the side of Hamas. Because
Well,
what
my
pussy
Jewish
we have-
guitar player is a self-hating Jew. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, is he one of
There's-
those?
yeah.
Did you see the insurrectionist today?
Does he eat shrimp every day just in pure defiance to Jehovah?
He took the opportunity to go do the Israel visit, the free Israel visit you get, and
For
then
Jews?
he saw
Like,
that
you just show 'em
Gaza
your
seemed.
circumcised dick at the airport and they put you on the bus.
Yeah, he did that. He went and did that, and they try to get you to have sex with a local Israeli girl and all that stuff, and all that's real. He says.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
It is nice.
If you're
Israeli
Jewish,
style.
if you're a certain like level of Jewish, they will pay for you to take a visit to Israel, and they'll try to get you to knock up an Israeli girl.
know what
Have you seen
crowd is,
the Israeli female propaganda, Israeli female military propaganda? Like, if you ever wanted something that's basically on like the level of, they have all these Israeli women.
What are
because
their
they
limits?
get
Like, if
scripted
I
too.
show my mom,
And it shows them all being hot and dancing around, and you'll be like, oh my gosh, this is like Victoria's Secret's back. Look at these Israeli military girls.
Are we treating them like pandas, or like, for the love of God, breed?
Yes, they do, 100%.
So, like, because like I'm circumcised because I was born in America in the '80s, and that's just what they did. And then, like, my mom's 23andMe says that she's 2% Jewish, which makes sense because her father was Portuguese, and then there was all of the new Christians and the crypto Jews in Portugal. So, like, can I go to Israel and be like, hey, put me on the bus, take me to the ladies, let's go?
How Jewish do you have to be?
Like, that's what I wonder, because that thing's like, if your mother's Jewish, you're a Jew. My mom is 2% Jew. What is the cutoff? I don't know.
But there's all that other stuff too, that if you are like a Jewish Jew,
and my mom, when I was a kid, would make latkes. So like, that's pretty Jewy. Latkes.
My mom guilted me a lot growing up. So
Oh, that's extremely Jewy.
yeah. Anyway,
just kidding, Mom. My mom's definitely watching this. I'm just kidding, Mom.
Shapiro's on a super roll. Plus, he also says the thing that, have you heard of the, I forget what the name of the doctrine is, but there's a doctrine in the Israeli world that if they get backed into a corner, they will unleash.
Oh, Atmafachad. I'm pretty sure.
They will unleash Armageddon. They'll unleash all of their nukes if they get backed into a corner.
I wish Flip was here for that one, because
to see if you said it right.
The Atmafachad. No, I just made it up. It's a durka.
But there is some guys like I follow Keith Woods, and he's kind of like a right-wing philosopher dude, but he's Irish. But this was so funny because people call different people white nationalists or some sort of thing, and that's a totally different flavor when you're talking about an Irish dude who wants to keep his Irish place Irish. It's like, well, that's a little bit different than some Southerner in the U.S. And on top of that, he's complaining that Shapiro and those guys get to keep their little island how they have it, and he's not allowed to keep his island the way he has it. And if Ben would have it his way, they would ship over all the Palestinians over to his island, and he gets upset about it. But that guy is an immediate concluder on anything against Israel on the other side. Like, Israel did this, Israel did that, Israel did this. But that's one of the weird breakdown cognitive dissonance things too, is that you got these supposed right-wing whatever guys, and they're siding with the brown Muslims here. And like, how dare you not treat these guys like full humans and count your people differently like the full Muslims.
We thought we were all joking when we said Islam was right about women. But then there was like we're all memeing about how funny that is. Anytime a woman does something irritating, Islam was right about women, and some people are like, yeah, and then others are like, yes, they are.
To make the argument against my Jewishness, here I am drinking American beer out of a giant German beer stein, so they wash out, right?
Oh no!
Someone called Flip a Jewish.
Those calories are gonna go right to your geschnuggana.
No, but I think like the German side of me doesn't give a fuck. Throw me some potato salad and sauerkraut and spätzle. Yeah. But that thing is like, I mean, because that thing is like, my grandpa was Portuguese and apparently at least 4% Jewish. Whereas, my grandma was a Silesian German, a Slavic German. So they kind of wash out there.
Says everyone urges peace and moderation until they plug the toilet at a friend's house. German beer is so good.
Yeah, but this is American beer. It's American beer made by a German immigrant. And basically what that means is that they had to use corn.
Corn?
This is beer nerdiness. But in Germany, beer can only be made of barley. But most American beer, like the technical term for like Budweiser, Coors, Miller, all of the classic American beers is what they call an adjunct lager. And adjunct as in there are adjuncts in the grain, because you always have to have at least some proportion of malted barley. But American beers tend to incorporate corn and or rice to fill it out because barley is more expensive here than it is in Germany. Traditionally.
You're literally the only person I've ever met who I actually believe when you say I like the taste of alcohol. Everybody else, I feel like they're lying, because when I say that I like an alcohol, what I mean is like relatively compared to the
I used to say this all the time when
taste
people say, "Oh, this is really good vodka." Like what you mean is it's mildly less poison
Yeah.
tasting.
No, vodka. There's no such thing as good vodka. There's terrible vodka, and there's worse vodka.
I work in the industry, and like I annoy a lot of people because I have a saying. I want to make a bunch of T-shirts of just things that I feel about alcohol. One of them, I want to make a T-shirt that says "Your mom drinks buttery Chardonnay" because she does. But also, I want to make a T-shirt that says "Vodka is for drunks." Well, because vodka is for drunks.
It is. No, it definitely is. No, here's the thing. Christopher Rice said gin is good. I like gin. It's my favorite alcohol. But when I say I like gin, I would not drink it if it didn't have alcohol in it. There's no way. Flip is a person who I think would. In fact, I know he would do that because the one time I hung out with Flip, he brought a bunch of different awesome types of alcohol, and he spat them out like he's doing a wine tasting. He's like, "This is a fantastic gin," and he twirls around and spits it out. I've never seen anybody do that with liquor before.
There have been times in my life, like this actually happened this week, where I was flossing my teeth and I started bleeding a bit, and I used single malt scotch as mouthwash.
Oh my
spit it out.
It
wasn't anything that I used cheap liquor for that, to be sure. Or this was a single malt that just wasn't very good. I just don't like it that much. So if I need to, I use it as mouthwash. But that's many times in my life I will just swish cheap liquor. Not even that, because I don't even buy cheap liquor, but relatively cheap liquor, and whatever. I don't know. I'm glad I'm there because in my youth I did. This is what I like to say about alcohol. And my history with drinking. I have a couple of pithy sayings. One is that I consider myself an accomplished drinker. I have no alcohol mountains left to climb. So the whole the classic, the Larry Miller comedian, not Utah billionaire, but the Larry Miller comedian has 5 levels of drunk, all that kind of stuff. Like that, I've been there, done that. Okay, so now I just enjoy alcohol moderately. And I just don't need to do that epic marathon drinking like young people like to do, And the other way I
understand why you like it in your mouth at all. I don't.
Yeah, see, and the other thing I like to say is that I've done a little bit of drinking that I'm not proud of, but I've done an awful lot of drinking that I feel great about.
Oh, hi there. My name's Aaron Hill, and I'm the guy that researches how many Jews there are in things. You've probably seen some of my work, most notably from when Kanye West shared my Jews in the media spreadsheet, or more recently when the infographic I made, also about Jews in the media, has been going around. Some people's hobbies are video games, other people's hobbies are sports, and my hobby is how many Jews there are in things. Speaking of sports, did you know that the NBA has 14 Jewish owners out of 30 teams? That's pretty weird considering they only make up 2% of the population. Just saying. Whenever I find a Jew, I put a Star of David over their photo to indicate that they are Jewish. Think of it like maybe an armband, but a digital one that I put on there to keep track of them. Some people on the internet call me names or say I'm an anti-Semite because I get some things wrong or am purposely misleading. But I'm not an anti-Semite. I just like to know how many Jews there are in things. I'm sure there are some mistakes sometimes, but we all make mistakes. Or sometimes I won't have enough Jews to put on the infographic, so I'll embellish a little bit, like the Jews, and I'll do things like put Steve Jobs on there as a Jew, which is obviously not true, or put Bob Iger of Disney on 12 different times with different versions of his name. It doesn't really matter. People believe it because they're fucking idiots. Take Comcast NBC, for example. They have 186,000 employees, and here I counted 100 Jews working there. Concerning. A lot of my former friends and family find it weird how obsessed I am with Jews and how many there are in things. But what I find weird is that 212 Jews have received Nobel Prizes, which makes up 22% of all Nobel Prizes ever given out. Pretty weird considering they only make up 0.2% of the world's population, right? Some people say, what's the big deal that Jews are overrepresented in things? Surely they're underrepresented in other things. Wouldn't it basically make me a communist and want exact representation in all things? But that's not what I want. I just want there to be no Jews in any things. I'm a utopian. Here's another thing I'm working on, the U.S. House of Representatives. There are 25 Jewish members sitting out of 435 possible seats. That makes up 6% of the total. Yet again, Jews are only 2% of the U.S. population, and that is very fascinating. Also, I wouldn't want you to think.
I have totally seen this guy. Like I have
I'm gonna send
100% seen it.
I've got a friend I'm gonna send this to, and he's gonna be fucking mad at me.
Christopher Rice says beer is better warm. Entirely depends on the beer. Mexican beer, Japanese beer, American lagers, cold. Those are cold. Anything like English mild ales, anything brown, Belgian ales with a lot of specialty malts, alt beers, basically anything with a lot of the long chain sugars. Those are ones that are better, closer to room temperature. But some beers are definitely best cold. Mexican beer, like ice cold Mexican beer on a hot summer day with spicy tacos. Like that's one of those things. Like people shit on Mexican beer, and I don't know why. It's fucking excellent.
I love
It all depends on context. Anyway,
Here's an actual one from actual people talking about the Jews that NGOs that promote mass immigration. Look, it actually even has like the stars that they use on their forehead.
it's like Encyclopedia Dramatica.
But it is true that there all these places do push mass immigration. Like Shapiro and Joel Pollak from Breitbart want them to start accepting Jews in the U.S. I mean, not Jews, Palestinians, and say, fine, like take them over to Shapiro's house. You know what I mean? Like that's fine by me, dude. Japanese gin made with green tea is the only good gin, but even that is.
I have never had that. What I'm finding with gins, because I don't drink an awful lot of gin, but I've noticed there's been
Isn't sake? What's sake?
Sake, they call it rice wine, but it's kind of a misnomer because the fermentation of sake kind of sits between beer and wine. Because beer is two-stage fermentation, where first you have to saccharify. I don't know what the word is. You have to turn starches into sugars and then ferment the sugars. Whereas wine is one-stage fermentation because you just start with sugar. Sake is a little bit different in that, like, the two stages happen simultaneously, so it's a little bit weird. But sake is you take particular kinds of rice, you polish off the protein-heavy outer parts to leave the starch-heavy inner parts of the rice grains. And koji, you had introduced koji, which is rice that's been infected with a particular kind of fungus that is related to, but not the same as the yeasts that make beer.
This is what happens when you ask an alcohol question. I'm not going to remember any of that. I just thought I was going to get like, it's kind of corny thing.
It's rice. Okay, it's rotten rice water. I like sake.
This is what's funny about me, because like some people, I was just talking to one of my friends, sometimes listen to this about Nietzsche the other night, and I've read everything by Nietzsche, right? And it kind of means like, well, now I'm a Nietzsche expert, and I kind of go like, no, just imagine that like reading Nietzsche is like how Flip just described sake to me. And if I go and try to regurgitate that now, I will sound like Tim the Toolman Taylor regurgitating the guy from over the fence, completely wrong. Like, oh yeah, Flip told me it was like some corn of Japanese corn.
There is a Japanese corn beer, and it's made in Okinawa. And the reason it's made is that an Okinawan brewery wanted to produce a beer to sell to American military servicemen based in Okinawa. So a Japanese brewery using Japanese ingredients imitated basically Miller to sell beer to Americans. And it's really good. And so it's a Japanese corn-based beer.
I have 100% tried to bring up to Flip about, doing actual kind of spin-offs or full episodes on introducing new to drinking ex-Mormons or even
I
Mormons to how they
talked
could
to
do it
John
better.
Larson 10 years ago when Mormon Expression was still going, and I talked to him and I proposed. At that time, I even had connections at local breweries. I could have got a lot of good stuff going, and I wanted to make a series of alcohol and drinking for ex-Mormons. And I could still
You
do
can
that.
nowadays you could probably do that and say, hey, this stuff's kind of like halfway, and you probably keep a temple recommend for this. You could probably do it for the Mormons, man, for real.
Yeah,
Flip
Like you
man.
could
fire,
probably
water,
make
fireside. I like that.
the way people go about making like a platonic arguments of like, what's the actual thing mean? Those Socratic questions of like, you can make some arguments for why certain alcohols aren't technically alcohols and that sort of stuff. Like, what's a table? What's a chair? What's an alcohol? And you could probably help them completely justify all sorts of depravity.
We'll do workshops. You can do that, and then in my workshop, I could teach them about logical fallacies. Have you ever heard of those?
Yeah. No.
Have you ever
I've
heard of
never.
it's called an ad hominem fallacy? Have you ever heard of that?
Is that when
No.
you
Well,
add
it's
gay men to a group of men and create a big pile of gay men? Is that ad
that's
homo
actually a
men?
very that's actually a very frequent
Oh,
confusion on that. But no, it's not actually. And since I'm very smart and unique and know a lot of fallacies, I can teach you about them.
Well, I was thinking about starting one for therapy and therapists and talk about how the church caused harm and how we can heal from the harm that it caused.
Yeah.
That's one I was thinking.
I was gonna say, if you are happily married, have you considered divorce? Have you thought about it?
But doesn't
What could
doesn't
divorce
your
do for you?
Hey,
Isn't
let's
your wife
let's
benefit-
undercut Bill Real and start the Do Drugs podcast.
He already started the Do Drugs Kids podcast, but he hasn't been posting
Kids
on
do
that lately.
drugs.
Do Drugs Kids. We'll start it right along with the new Daily Wire Kids program, and we're gonna undercut Bill Real and say Do Drugs Kids. Yeah, but Flip really should actually do that because he really does have a bunch of stuff. But you could become like the same way Julie Hanks can justify whatever sexual act, or what? But I guess what's her name got banned for that one.
Look, here's the thing with Mormons and drinking. The word of wisdom, the whatever it is, DNC 89, I don't remember the number. It explicitly condones making and drinking beer. It's clear as day. God, I think that a close reading of the word of wisdom, God commands us to make beer.
Hell yeah.
I'm just looking at a TikTok Quaker just posted about Israel.
Oh boy.
I didn't see what it was yet. So
Did it come from his Moorish science friends from back in the day? 'Cause that could be fun.
You guys follow this at all?
Nope.
You guys heard of Visions of Glory?
Yep.
What is this? Oh,
Visions of Glory was a book written by John Pontius. Charles Wagner says Eskimos are the dumbest mofos when it comes to drinking alcohol. Yeah, and booze and drugs and all the stuff and doing just going off the rails. So let's just go off all the rails and it'll be great and fine.
I mean, that's one of those things. Like early in my ex-Mormon life, I thought, like, well, who really, really, really is like that? Because, like, I remember John Larson talking about how, like, some people leave the church and say, like, everything the church said is wrong must be good, and they go and test it. And
Yeah,
I'm like, oh,
it's
no,
out
who's
there.
that
It's
dumb?
real.
And then, like, over the years, I've realized, like, oh, lots of people.
Most.
Dumb.
Let's do all
You know?
things.
Like, hey, don't cheat on your spouse. Well, I'll show you.
Just
I'm
because
gonna go
You
get
can't tell
pregnant.
me what to do.
I'm gonna get pregnant just so I can get an abortion.
just because you can drink doesn't mean it's good to do it at work. The Bible cured me of my teetotaling. Anyway, this whole thing, it's too long once again, but I'll just give a quick rundown of it. It turns out there's like a connection between Tim Ballard, Lori Vallow, and Chad Daybell, the murderers, and Jody Hildebrandt and whatever that therapy stuff. And it's all this Visions of Glory book. In the Visions of Glory book, was written by this dude named John Pontius, who was taking the visions of another dude named Tom Harrison. The Tom Harrison dude was with Ballard going on all those things, and he was actually one of the persons who supposedly could have visions along with that vision lady of Nephi. He had these near-death experience visions, and they put those visions in this book, and Glory Vallow was holding that book when she got arrested down in wherever, and they were all kind of part of like this big same like text message ring. So there's like a tie between Tim Ballard, Lori Vallow, and Jody Hildebrandt. Suppose he was a therapist who worked with him. He's a therapist at the University of Utah and a professor.
So it's not just tenuous connections.
It's connections.
No, there's a whole bunch of good fucks in this type of thing.
All connected to that Tom Harrison dude who actually went down to some of those OUR.
I think that this might be the first time in the History of Mormon Stories podcast where I learned something I didn't know.
100%. Like, first time, like John Lynn actually did do some kind of break-in reporting that kind of blew my mind. Like,
yeah, whoa, that's the first original thing you've ever done.
Christopher asked, which one of those people are Jewish?
They're at least 22% Jews, and how can that be? There's only 2% Jews in the world, and how are there 22%? Tim Ballard's 22% Jew. Let's see. My very Mormon wife told me to try bourbon and tell her what I think about it. So you're supposed to like describe it back to her.
That's weird.
Alcohol after I left the church. It helped that we were watching Justified at the time.
What kind of bourbon was it?
Jim Beam Apple.
Like, was it ancient age or was it something consumable?
It wasn't anything you're gonna like. Because
well, I mean, look, here's
the first time an ex-Mormon drinks, it's not anything you're gonna approve of.
The thing about the world of alcohol is that you're always being surprised. And one is that, like, just a few weeks ago, oh, that's a good one. When? Because the thing is, up until fairly recently, they didn't make that. That was just MGP, which is the not so dirty secret. Sorry, the dirty not so secret reality of American craft whiskey. Knob Creek is good. Knob Creek is as Toyota is to Lexus. Sorry, as Lexus is to Toyota, Knob Creek is to Jim Beam. But now I've lost my train of thought.
Talking about bullet bourbon. And
we'll get to more debauchery in just a little bit. We'll just finish.
I'm going to switch to listen.
Mormon stories-y stuff, and no, because we're going to get to debauchery. We're going to do it, but it's fine to cut into it too, because I'm almost done with it. But I actually just wanted to ask a question this because I was discussing with somebody who listens last night, and John DeLyn's claim is that Mormons are particularly primed to create these religions within a religion. Like last week, we were talking about Hamlin and the supposed Satanism that's inside of the inverted Mormon Satanism inside of the church of whatever that group is, if it's real. But here's this weird connections and tangential things to this visions of glory stuff. And it all kind of comes from these people who've basically decided that they can have their own visions, like Joseph Smith had their own visions. John DeLynn kind of claims that they were given blessings by Neil A. Maxwell, although I think if you listen to the same podcast, you can see where Neil A. Maxwell told them to chill out. Even by their own admittance, Neil A. Maxwell told them to chill out. But what that book became popular for and why people bought it and these guys got into it, and then they all kind of got in like these text messaging rings or these tangential, like they'd show up at the same conferences together and all that sorts of stuff, is they all got into a belief that they were just as capable of having their own visions as Joseph Smith ever was.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we started arguing is like, I think obviously Mormonism does maybe prime people to come up with that sort of weirdness. But the question is, does it overly prime people for that? Or we're right in the middle of a war where the Zionists, the weird percentage of Zionists and the weird percentage of Hamas Muslims get just as nutty as these internal people got nutty. Is it really, as DeLynn paints it, a particular Mormon problem? As I've said before, I think he tries to paint Mormons as possible American Taliban or something like that. Or is it every religion has a little bit of this ability to become the wackadoo wackies inside of the thing that go way overboard and kind of make their own little inner group of wackiness? Is it a particular Mormon problem, or is it just a world universal people problem.
Well, so I think you
Like,
need to have you need to have an accurate sample pool first, and so the first thing you got to do is get Lori Vallow the hell out of there because she doesn't count because she's fucking psycho. She's clearly when you
Yeah, and I don't know that they were influencers, whereas the others were influencers.
well,
Yeah, that's
Daybell
yeah.
is a little bit. Chad Daybell's a little bit different than Lori. Like Lori seems like in any circumstance that you put that physiology in, she will do something insane, right? So
I can still hear him.
Yeah.
Just
but you got to get her out of there, and then it's more interesting to talk about the others, like Chad Daybell. He might have been more pushed by Mormonism. It'd be like obviously if you go to a different universe and see, I wonder what Chad Daybell would have been like in a different universe. Maybe he just would have been a PE teacher or something like that. But it's hard to say, and I think Mormonism does kind of play with fire in a way. Like I think that it does kind of push people. There's a subset of people for whom Mormonism is not enough. And I've met these people and they start doing weird shit. Most of them don't do like fraudulent shit, but stuff that Mormonism would consider like blasphemous. Like I met people who use essential oils for blessings, or they give super special blessings that they charge money for. And they're all the same vein of person. And that type of person, whatever is up with their mind, they would have, I feel like different ideologies or different religions would have pushed them in different directions. So I don't know if you can blame Mormonism as much as you can their mind.
Yeah. Because I mean, religion's going weird. I mean, this might be an example of going from crazy to less crazy. But like one of the weirdest things in the world that I ever discovered, because I'm a nerd and I research everything. And so when I adopted my cat from the Best Friends Animal Society. And so I looked up the Best Friends Animal Society. And boy, howdy, is their history fascinating. And what it is that back in the 60s, there was a couple of very successful Scientologists back when Scientology was set up more as a franchise operation than it is now. And they were enormously successful. And then they started to they got too big for their britches, and L. Ron Hubbard threw them out. And this man and woman started their offshoot of Scientology, which was called, I think it was called the Process Temple or something like that. And it started out as a straight up Scientology offshoot. And then it started to get kind of like a Scientology offshoot with like Christian leanings. And then they moved to like southern Utah, and then the husband of the pair died. And then the wife took over. And then it became much more of like a new age Christian cult. And they like made a compound in southern Utah. And because the lady had a bug about animal welfare, as part of her new age Christian cult, she started an animal shelter. And then she died. And then like her followers basically like abandoned all of the Scientology and Christian pretenses and simply became an animal shelter. And so like, because, when I adopted my cat, I asked the lady at the Best Friends Animal Society, I'm like, so I read about like the Scientology thing. And so she went, we have nothing to do whatsoever with Scientology whatsoever. And like, because I'd already read this, because like the Best Friend Animal Society that exists today, even though it is a direct descendant of a Scientology offshoot cult, they have completely expunged everything in their organization from any kind of religious anything whatsoever. And they are, to my knowledge, just a totally up and up non-profit animal welfare adoption thing now. I could tell that this lady was completely sick of answering the Scientology connection question. But like, there's just an example of like, how do religion, like, people in a religion taking the thing and taking it in a whole other direction. There you go. Like, here's Bucket, my cat. She came from Scientology. You got Thetans on you, Bucket? Are you a bunch of alien monsters? Is that why you hunt me in the night?
Christopher says we all have a tribal bent if it's religion or subcategory, and then he says I think it's the secret knowledge and revelation are a bit more prone to this, and that's what I also said with the person I was talking to the other day, because that weird little secret knowledge, and it usually becomes like a little cult within a religion or even outside of it. But the secret knowledge, the special secret Gnostic stuff, I think is the most prone to it. Is Mormonism, especially if you're somebody who starts to believe that you can get whatever sort of random vision or whatever, more prone to that? Maybe, but I mean, I think that sort of thing can pop up anywhere of somebody who thinks that they can be the hermetic person who finds all the little pieces of knowledge to figure out the world. And I was making the point to the guy that I stand by normie religion. You know, like normie religion is good. Religion that starts getting weird and esoteric is trouble. You
know? To answer Charles Wagner real quick, I don't knock MGP. MGP makes good whiskey. My issue with MGP is all of the labels that are deceptive, because there's an enormous amount of people out there pretending to make whiskey, and they are very sneaky about it to varying degrees, and like they're acting like they're making their own whiskey, and it's just MGP. And the archetypal example of this is if you just Google Templeton Rye class action lawsuit. That's the poster child of deceptive labeling practice. But even the whiskeys that are on this side of legal on their labeling, they are extremely deceptive. MGP makes lots and lots of great whiskey. That's fine. And they're a way for a lot of distilleries to get off the ground. But there's so much deception that's my issue with MGP, are the people who lie about what they're doing. The MGP, their product is good. They make a lot of great whiskey at a great price. They're just sneaky about it. But that's
all right.
All right.
Did we solve? We're gonna. It's more. You can do more. Did we solve the big questions? We solved the Middle East, and we solved if Gnostic religions get wacky. We've solved.
Yeah, we have peace.
Like that's the big issues in the world, right? We got those two down. So now we have the deeper question, which is, are we garbage? Were we always garbage, and were we not garbage? Let's go. This is just for a stinger. I'm still in their stinger.
Welcome to another exciting edition of Are You Garbage? The show where you find out if your favorite comedians are classy individuals or absolute trash. Now,
all right. I'm still in some like the questions from this show, but okay. I'd like to think of some questions that actually kind of pertain to Mormon trash and Mormon garbage and that sort of stuff.
Okay.
But I mean, I guess it kind of fits into talking about alcohol. And that's why I keep saying it's fine that you keep going on your alcohol jabs, Flip, because it all kind of blends in to Are We Garbage? So even if you have any sort of ideas of going off on that stuff, be my guest at any point, because it's actually playing to the theme. But if you have any thoughts, I'm going to start asking questions. People in the chat can answer too. And if any of these things makes you want to talk further about if you or your family are garbage, you are welcome to pontificate, because we already figured out the other big things in the world. Now we need to look inside and see if we've always been trash and garbage. All right. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever taken furniture from the trash?
I must.
I don't think I have.
I don't think so.
I used to, I live in an apartment downtown that on the sidewalk strip in front of it, there was a thing called the Giving Tree, which was just this weird hippie place where people would leave stuff there. Like I got a vinyl Beatles record on that. I must have taken like an end table or something from there.
I was gonna say, so here's the thing, I'm not above it.
That's not the trash.
Yes, I'm garbage.
Yeah, I would. That's true. I would.
Here's the thing is but
I just haven't come across it yet. Yeah.
But for me, I would. But I have the issue where my dad was a hoarder, and one of his particular hoarding things was furniture, and so watching him dig through trash, I have PTSD from that. So
I don't know. I'm not looking at the screen, so read some of the answers. You see them. Charles says definitely would. Christopher definitely would. Commodore Jensen, nope. Oh, come on.
This kind of raises a related thing, because
definitely not a sofa. I did take one of those a TV off the side of the road that said free in a basketball hoop for kids.
Because this is slightly tangential, but the fucking e-scooters. Because my whole thing, if I was in charge of the universe, one of the rules I would make is that if somebody leaves their e-scooter on the sidewalk, you're saying that's garbage.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well,
that's-
If you
That's
leave your
your
couch on
classy
the
thing.
sidewalk, that's
it's
garbage.
like it's
So
like
I
the
can either
shopping
throw
cart.
that away or I can take it home and it's mine now. And to me, that should be the law of e-scooters. If you politely park your e-scooter out of the way in a place that I don't give a fuck, okay. But if you leave it, as happens once a week in my apartment building, immediately outside of the exit door of my building, that's garbage. I can either put that in the dumpster or take it home and it's mine now. Like that's what that
Okay.
should mean.
All right, what's our next trash question?
Anybody in your family have flame tattoos?
No, no.
Okay, no,
That's a no
I
for
don't.
me.
Okay, so not immediate family. I would have to guess, and I haven't talked to my Tennessee cousins in years. I would certainly some of them do. In fact,
You got
one of my
Tennessee cousins?
I have. That's my
They're
dad.
from
My
Tennessee
cousins.
whiskey?
I have cousins with flame tattoos. Yeah.
My friend or my dad escaped from white trash Tennessee, and he came here to Idaho. But he
He went from
No.
white trash Tennessee to white trash Idaho. That might be a step down.
it's not even it's
Look at this. Troy stole the folding chairs from church. That's pretty garbage. That's
Did
pretty
you
tell
pay
you,
trash.
tithing?
here's a
If you
trash
pay
thing.
tithing, then that's yours.
Here's a trash thing though. Like, did you ever watch Sons of Anarchy?
No.
Some of it. Yeah.
So the main character is Jax Teller is his name. My cousin had a kid when he was very young and named him Jax Teller Myers. Like his actual last name is Myers, but his first and middle name are Jax Teller. So he named a character after Sons of Anarchy. So I figure that has to count for something, right?
Yeah. So some of these questions, like you got to dig deep. We're not talking about now. We're talking about you got to think of your childhood, especially your little Mormon childhood. All right.
Okay.
Any Looney Tunes apparel.
When I was a kid, I had a Tasmanian Devil shirt.
That's what it specifically says. Taz. Ha!
I was
Apparently, I don't
3,
know.
you dick.
You are a
This is like-
3-year-old piece of trash.
My dad is a freak of nature and disconnected, and my mom came from an entirely different country. So there's a lot of very cultural American things that I was kind of immune to as a child.
Video game character tats. Those count. Yeah, I think those count.
Oh man, one of my managers, I talked to him. He had like an Assassin's Creed tattoo, and I was like, "That's trashy." But I asked him, I was like, "What's your favorite Assassin's Creed game?" He's like, "What?" I was like, "Which one of the games is your favorite?" And he's like, "Oh, the tattoo." Yeah, I never played any of them. We just saw the design. I was like, "Holy shit!" Anyway, he got fired from meth use. So
ironically, NPR, here's a weird, messed up thing about the world. NPR did a story about the new Assassin's Creed, and now I actually want to play the new Assassin's Creed, even though I've played none of the other Assassin's Creeds. And the only reason is apparently it takes place in Baghdad, and all of the dialogue is in classical Arabic. So now I'm interested.
it is.
That's what they said. They hired Iraqis, and they wrote all the dialogue not in modern Arabic, but in classical Arabic, which is the only Arabic
Wow.
that I know any of. So that'll be the closest that I could come to having friends who speak classical Arabic is Assassin's Creed video game characters.
Commodore Jensen says his mom being Canadian might also make some of his stuff different too. You'd have to lean into some of the Trailer Park Boys stuff for a
You eat those Smarties, the Smarties that are just giant M&Ms and not real Smarties, which are tart candies.
That's a Canadian Smartie? I didn't know
Canadian
that.
Smarties are M&Ms that are the size of a Mentos.
So
I
they're
didn't
better.
know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I learned that on my mission.
Smarties here are terrible.
Canadian-
Our
and I
Smarties
ate
might
a
as well be
billion of them.
medication.
That's one of the questions. Did you ever start eating Halloween candy in the middle of trick or treating? I did. I definitely did.
I don't remember,
did.
but I definitely did. Like, absolutely.
So, Troy, real quick about Baldur's Gate.
Wait, hold on. Let's read Charles's
sorry.
first. Every woman in the ward wore a denim dress with Looney Tunes. Yeah, that's because all of us Mormons were trash. We were trash. Read Troy's thing, references, and then he says, "I'm up to 180 hours in Baldur's Gate 3 now, still playing the best rendition of D&D ever."
As the days go by and the reviews come in, I'm getting happier and happier every minute that I didn't prepay for Starfield, because it looks like Starfield is just a turd. And meanwhile, Baldur's Gate is the sleeper that is conquering everything. But we'll see.
I bet I'd enjoy it. Starfield is probably not as bad as everyone says it is. I've been watching.
Game,
so it's gonna be buggy as shit.
Well, no, it's not even that, because I've been watching reviews and it sounds like, because like all Bethesda games are buggy as shit. They're all repetitive, blah 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 blah. But the whole thing is like the review. Like I've been watching multiple. I mean, the algorithm has been feeding me multiple reviewers who are saying the same thing, which is basically, given all the bullshit of Bethesda games, the things that people loved about Skyrim and Fallout was the exploration.
Yeah.
And that's true for me. That was my favorite part of those games, was the stumbling on something and going down the rabbit hole. And all reports is that the exploration of Starfield is just non-existent.
That's just repeat stock stuff that kind of regenerates. Next question. Oh, this is a good point by Mitchell Clark. Insane Clown Posse, anything, which is true. Which is tripped me out when I was like a teenager. How many just kind of good Mormon kids I knew got into Insane Clown Posse. That was wild. Here I am in a mad dash to finish Hogwarts before Spider-Man 2.
Dude, Spider-Man 2 comes out in 15 minutes.
I bought Hogwarts and I got like partway through the tutorial section, and I'll be honest, like I dropped it. I'll get back to it sometime, but it's just not. I don't know. It doesn't call to me.
You're not the Harry Potter generation.
I'm gonna be.
I guess
oh,
I don't know.
Like,
to
me.
Well, here's the thing about Harry Potter with me is that like I went on a mission in 1999, right before Harry Potter got big. So I was a missionary as Harry Potter exploded. Like as I went into Mormon houses, I saw two things. I saw Harry Potter and I saw Pokemon. So I got home and I'm like, okay, what the fuck is up with this? So I read Harry Potter, and I admit I got hooked, because like I got home just as the third or fourth book. I'd have to look at a calendar.
But reading the books or not, like that's a world, and maybe if you read the books, you'd understand it more. But that'd be a world that most people would be like, "Holy crap, I want to search that world."
No,
we all wanted to search that world.
That was so that was actually I'm the stereotypical millennial. That was the book that got me to read. Like I wouldn't read anything. I played video games and stuff like that, and I mean I was in second grade when the first one came out, so I read them as they came out, and I read constantly until the book was finished. And you love the world. She's a master at world building. She's really good at cozy, and that's actually something they did really well in Hogwarts Legacy, is capture the coziness of.
There's a coziness, but there's a second thing. Like one of the things that obsessed me as a little kid was, what the hell is down Oscar the Grouch's garbage can? And I would sit there and wonder.
Find out in an Elmo movie.
But it's still not enough of it. But the Harry Potter world had a lot of that to me. Like, what the hell else is in that castle? And it seems to me like that game would be like, okay, this will be fun to. It's kind of like, here's a game that lets you search inside of Oscar the Grouch's garbage can.
I wish there were more transphobia in it. That's all I'll say. Because it didn't have it didn't have enough transphobia. It had a weird distribution of it had a weird racial distribution.
I was annoyed that J.K. Rowling said goblin when she meant Jew. I was like, come on.
Why
did you do that?
Okay. Next question. These guys are talking about other games. Half-Life 2 and Combat in Hogwarts was addictive.
Soulless, non-magical beings that are only obsessed with money. Come on.
Next question. Do you have any aunts or uncles where you don't use their first name?
Like, you don't?
Yeah, it's like Bubba or Jackie, uncle, whatever.
No, I called my aunts and uncles by their names.
No, I don't think I do.
We're all too classy for that one.
Oh, man.
Too classy.
I had a weird thing that, like, I was raised by poor people in a shitty part of town, and we were always lower class in the economic thing. But both of my parents, despite coming from two different countries, were heavily literate. Books were huge in my childhood.
Castle exploration and rampant transphobia are breathtaking.
It's like you watch them like, whoa, look at that. Look at that transphobia. Look at that ballroom. Look at that denial of existence. Have you ever had a taquito from 7-Eleven?
Yes.
Trash.
Trash.
I've had all of the gas station food.
Wait, the thing is, like, because Chris was there, because I was his roommate at the time, because a mutual friend of ours, one day, We went to the 7-Eleven to get PBR. We're
Mitchell has
trash.
Uncle Hansy.
That's
So
trash.
here's where I'm like totally exposing my trashiness, because we went to the 7-Eleven to get PBR and we were hungry and we're like, let's try the $5 7-Eleven pizza. And we bought it and we took it to Chris Hanna's house and he watched us as we each took a bite and then put the rest of the pizza in the garbage. We were like, nope.
That happened to me when I got a White Castle microwave burger.
I have been tempted. I have stood at the Winco frozen section for like 90 seconds contemplating, like, should I try? And I haven't pulled the trigger.
They're even worse than normal White Castle burgers.
Whoa! I've never even had a normal. I
They're
just want to
fucking
try.
awful.
Was it the worst thing ever?
It was.
So this is a question that goes along with this. Do you have a favorite gas station?
No.
Okay. Here's the sad trash. Oh God, I hate this about myself. I have to wake up early to go to work, right? I wake up at like 4 a.m. to go to work. I know which gas stations have like shitty pizza ready at 4 a.m. and which ones don't.
Look, here's the thing about shitty gas stations and shitty everything. Like, I was having this conversation with people at work, because like 20 years ago, like over a 3-year period, I worked at 3 different Papa John's, and I learned an important thing, which is that like a properly managed Papa John's, where the dough is being proofed correctly and the dough is being handled correctly and the toppings are being measured correctly, like everything's done correctly, the ovens haven't been messed with, like if everything is done according to the book, there's no reason you can't make a good pizza at Papa John's. The reason that Papa John's sucks almost all of the time is that their corporate culture is toxic and shit, and almost no Papa John's is being managed by somebody who gives anything close to a fuck about quality. That's why Papa John's sucks. But like, if everything's done right, it's fine. It's like, that's the thing with like 7-Eleven coffee. Like, if the 7-Eleven coffee is being like, if they're dumping it when it's old, like if they've got the machine set up right, if they're measuring everything correctly, it's fine.
I don't think any of them taquitos are fancy though. Man.
Well, I didn't say taquitos. I didn't.
Okay.
No amount of corporate goodness is gonna make microwave taquitos good.
No, that's a dead end.
Maverick count as trash? Yes, sirree. Absolutely. As Charles Wagner says, I think he was answering that he has eaten those taquitos. The Oklahoma onion burger is divine. Troy said he used to work at a 7-Eleven and ate a million by Spanish Fork in South Park. So taquitos brought us Harry Potter, fellas, the Harry Potter video game. If it weren't for them, Costco
Who remembers Circle K? Who's old enough to remember?
Oh, I do. Strange things are afoot at the Circle K. What movie is that from?
Bill and Ted?
Yeah, you got it. I
remember.
I haven't seen Bill and Ted since 1994, so I don't know.
So we used to go around because they were sitting in front of the Circle K when they were researching for their history project, so they don't get sent to military camp in Alaska. And then this lady walks by, and she's going to work, and like, "Excuse me, ma'am, do you know when the Mongols invaded China?" And she's like, "I don't know, I just work here." And we thought that was the funniest shit ever. We laughed our asses off. So that's what we did when we were like 12 years old. Anytime our mom would take us to the like mall to drop us off and hang out for a couple hours, we would just ask random people if they knew when the Mongols invaded China. We thought we were so funny too.
So Boosie, somebody said Boosie's. Isn't that like the Texas gas station that's like insanely good? I've heard they're insanely good.
Well, like here's one of those weird things about the world is boudin. Like when you were in New Orleans, did you try boudin? It's the Cajun sausage that's made of rice, hearts, and liver. Almost nobody in the world likes it. But like I've heard from multiple sources that the best boudin available in America is sold from a gas station somewhere close to Baton Rouge, which is one of those things. But like apparently, like that's where the good boudin comes from. Some shitty gas station in Baton Rouge.
Look at these gas stations, these Boosies. Supposedly, like in Texas, they're like the size of freaking Costco's now and stuff, and they're actually started as gas stations.
It's the
Oh my
Walmart
God.
of gas.
In New Jersey, they had
They're
my
selling
favorite.
lobster.
Oh man, my favorite name of a gas station ever was in New Jersey. They had one called Wawa.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
WAWA, and it's just they all have that accent. So like Wawa. We're gonna go over to the Wawa.
Charles says, "What are the smartest people always seem to have extensive experience with pizza chains?" I've noticed that before too. Like, if you want to hear somebody who can talk to you about philosophy, they're probably delivering a pizza out there.
I have so many things. So I have Flip's first law of pizza. Flip's first law of pizza is your pizza is only as good as your crust. Flip's second law of pizza is cook your pizza for longer. It's underdone.
Well,
And those are my two laws of
What if I
pizza.
like my pizza medium rare?
so what's funny is like this is one of the funny things that I heard on this.
And here's the other
podcast.
thing. Like, this is the part where like he really nails it. I don't really like pizza that much. I think that almost all pizza sucks. And yet I have really
This is
firm
one of the things
opinions about pizza.
that cracked me up on these podcasts. I'm watching like these guys in Are You Garbage podcast. They had Tim Dillon on. It's a real funny episode because you listen to it, you find out Tim Dillon knows his junk food and his junk food preferences like you wouldn't believe. And one of the things that was so funny is they started asking, what do you like better, Domino's or Pizza Hut? And so they start arguing Domino's or Pizza Hut. And then after a minute, you kind of realize, like, listen, I don't like Domino's so much. And let me explain to you my last 45 experiences with them in the last 3 months. And you go, like what? Like, you like Pizza Hut better, and you've had 45 experiences with Domino's in the past 3 months, and you have all these other places in the universe to choose from to eat. Like, how do you eat at Domino's so much and it's the worst one, the one that you like less? And that's what I love about fat guys. I mean, like, I was just sitting there like talking about, like, I don't like Domino's because I had it here. I'm like, how do you end up eating there so much and you don't even like it?
No, I have a lot of trash preferences too, because like I remember one time we were walking. It's usually with fast food. Like, I hate fast food breakfast. I hate it. So I know all of the
Pretty
fast food
universal
restaurants
crappy.
where they will serve you their lunch in the morning, right? Like, Jack in the Box doesn't really have much of a breakfast menu, but they'll serve you their burgers at any time. McDonald's will not. Taco Bell doesn't. They serve their burritos. You can buy a fucking bean burrito at 6 a.m. if you want. That's some trash knowledge that I know. I also know what toppings are on which. Like, we walked out of a mall one time, and I think we were in Salt Lake or something like that, and like we get a whiff of some burger joint, and Morgan's like, "Oh God, it smells like Wendy's or something." I was like, "No, it's not Wendy's because I can smell mustard. They don't put mustard on their burgers. That smells like Burger King because they do put mustard on their burgers." And she's like, "You are fucking fat."
Well, so listen to this guy's episode with Tim Dillon. And if you want to listen to people talk junk food and what they do with junk food, it's one of the better episodes I've ever heard. Just an hour and a half of just like a straight stream of consciousness of
I'll tell you
all
about
the junk food of the past 30 years.
I'll tell you about the nuances between the gummy burger and the gummy Krabby Patty, because the gummy burger has a better bun, but the gummy Krabby Patty has the better lettuce for sure.
Yeah. Anytime my siblings and I see Circle K, we explode into Bill and Ted's quotes. Bucky's is huge. I guess I said it wrong. Boothie's is Bucky's. Obviously, that looks like a Bucky's, but I had no idea. I've never been. I don't remember last time. Oh, I know I was in Texas as a flyover, but Buck like Chuck.
My only time in Texas was a transfer at the Fort Worth Dallas Airport.
Commodore Jensen is drinking Blue Moon. Tim Dillon is a sleeper genius. Yeah, Tim Dillon kills me. I mean, he's like, yeah, when he just kind of goes on these rants, I just kind of can't believe my ears.
We have Culver's further south. Like, the Culver's hasn't. The closest Culver's has gotten to Salt Lake is West Jordan, South Jordan.
Oh, really?
And Culver's is good. Like, it's been a few years, but like back many years ago when I was a courier and was all up and down the Wasatch Front, I would get lunch from Culver's, and Culver's was good.
It is. Culver's is like, it's like burger joint Chick-fil-A, basically.
Well, because part of the thing is because like
they even say my pleasure.
Culver's is the second place in the universe that serves frozen custard, because the original frozen custard is Nelson's frozen custard, and there's one in Highland on Highland Drive in Salt Lake City, and there's one in Bountiful.
There was one in Rexburg up until a couple years ago.
Oh, what? Fucking Mormons couldn't keep Nilsson's frozen custard open?
Well, it might still be there. I'm not sure.
Because like everything's like like ice cream isn't fattening enough. Should we add egg yolks? Yes.
All right. Have any of you had Mountain Dew in the last 365 days?
No.
Me neither. Man, we are classy.
I can't think of the last time I had a Mountain Dew. Like every once in a while I think to myself, like, should I try one? And it just doesn't come up.
No.
Yeah.
You know what? My boss, he's from Kentucky. He's the weirdest redneck I've ever met. He likes warm, flat Diet Mountain Dew.
He's from Kentucky? Because in the 90s, I worked in the airport, and one of my coworkers was a Bosnian refugee. And I remember because I trained him. And on the first day, I'm like, and oh, by the way, we get all the free drinks that you ever possibly want from the soda machine. And they came out of the soda machine at American ice cold temperature. And I remember he used to fill a cup with Pepsi and put it in the microwave for 45 seconds to bring it up to room temperature.
Jesus Christ.
Commodore Jensen's off the dude. Charles is made homemade Dr. Pepper. I don't know if that's trashy or classy. That might be the classiest trash I've ever had. One Mountain Dew is enough. You're trash. Christopher, I used to be quite addicted to that shit. Let's see here. Have any of you ever drank milk with dinner?
Oh yeah. I used to drink so much milk. I mostly stopped because it was expensive. So my first area on my mission I was waiting on my visa. I was in Nebraska, so they had me in a trio. We had a normal companion that would drink like a gallon of milk every couple of weeks or so. He'd go through a gallon of milk. But me and my other companion, we both drank 2 gallons of milk a week on our own. And so like anytime people would come over to visit, like any other missionaries, they'd open our fridge and there's like 7 gallons of milk in our fridge. I'd be like, why the fetch do you guys have so much
Were
milk?
you drinking that weird Brazilian milk in the bag?
Oh, I loved that. No, this was before I went to Brazil. This was in Nebraska. I drank 2 gallons of milk a day, or not a day, a week when I was in there. But then once I got to Brazil, the bag milk was great. But what I loved was the yogurt, because their yogurt they have it in a bag and it's the same. It's a lot more viscous, a lot more liquidy. It's like our smooth, like
it's less viscous. Yeah.
And less viscous. And I cut off the corner and just suck it out of the bag. I'd drink those things.
Yeah, like it's mildly fermented. Like it's halfway yogurt.
Oh, I fucking loved it.
Yeah. You had that shit in Mexico though. What do the Mexicans call that yogurt drink they love so much?
Yogurt.
Yeah. No, but I mean like the thing, like yeah.
Oh, the Yoku or the
Yakult. Yeah, the Yakult.
Yakult, yeah. Ever been to a McDonald's birthday party? I definitely have.
Yes, it was the 80s, but yeah,
the 80s, totally.
Yeah. I don't think so.
You remember those? Because like you know what I remember about McDonald's birthday party was the giant cooler full of orange drink. You remember those? Remember, like I don't know when. It stopped, but it used to be that you could from McDonald's you could rent a cooler of orange drink. Like you would pay a deposit on the cooler and they'd fill it with orange drink and then you'd return the cooler for the deposit.
Like a trough, you just like stick your face in it and
like the Gatorade cooler that they throw on football coaches when you win. Like there would be one of those but filled with McDonald's orange drink. And
what do you mean orange drink? Are you talking about High C?
McDonald's orange drink.
So that's what it was called?
Yeah.
It was
purple drink and orange drink back in the day.
No, because I remember because in January of 1997 there was a midair collision over Kearns, and at the time we were living with my grandpa in Sugar House, and the house that my parents are in now, that I was born in and grew up in, it was empty at the time. It was like they had been renting it out, but it was empty at the time. But there was an air crash, and I was 6 years old. And my dad's like, well, we saw it on the news. There was a midair collision. So my dad's like, let's go check it out. And I said, Dad, can I come? And he said, sure. And I'll shorten the story because there's a lot to the story. But I remember we came to the house and it was January and it was back before global warming. So there's snow everywhere. And in my mind, like in my 6-year-old mind, to me, it had looked like this is what my 6-year-old mind thought. It looked like somebody had taken a bunch of those McDonald's coolers full of orange drink and thrown them everywhere. And it was years later that I learned that jet fuel is dyed orange,
Oh,
and that it was actually jet fuel that had sprayed everywhere from the midair collision.
This is what makes Flip trash.
That I was born and raised
Talking
in
about
Kern?
McDonald's, born
I
raised in
know.
Kearns, but talking about a McDonald's birthday party, and he remembers a crashing tragedy.
Hey, there was an entire turboprop engine and most of the left wing of a commuter airline in my backyard. I remember seeing that. It was a trip.
Our generation is one of the closest to baby boomers, so yeah, probably. Charles Wagner said he might divorce his wife for the way she drinks milk at the dinner table. Remember OK Soda? It was more Shasta around here.
RC Cola.
RC
Who remembers
Cola.
RC Cola?
I remember all
yeah.
my teachers drink RC Cola or Tab. They drink
Tab. No, because Tab was aspartame. Tab was what the fatties drank Tab. Normal people drink RC Cola.
When did Sobe die? One of the questions, one of the trashy questions is,
the
do you
fatty
have a
trash drink Tab? The fatty normals drink RC.
one of the trash questions is, do you have a favorite Gatorade flavor?
Blue.
Another thing, like, I was
Just
always
blue.
a weird. I was a weird kid. I was a weird American kid.
I never liked
that
Gatorade.
I never liked Otter Pops. I didn't like
I love
Slurpees.
those.
I didn't like Pop Tarts. I didn't like SpaghettiOs, and I never liked Gatorade.
I liked Otter Pops, and
I didn't like Otter Pops very much.
Pop Tarts are okay, but I liked Otter Pops.
I didn't like Sunny D at all.
I never liked Sunny
I
D.
like Sunny D too.
It tastes like if you had normal orange juice, then you put a bunch of Windex in it. That's
You obviously don't remember the 80s commercial, which I bet you a lot of other people do. Of Sunny D, what do you have in the fridge? I'll go apple juice, something, and always end up and purple stuff, purple drink. And and the joke was back then, like, if you were a black guy, I was like, well, I want the purple drink.
Did you ever watch that that every 90s commercial ever
No
video? I'll find it.
I do admit, like, every once in a while, YouTube shows me these things for like 30 minutes of advertisements from 1992. I watch those 30 minutes.
I watch all those commercials.
I'm like, I remember all those things.
I get mesmerized sometimes if, like, there's a show that got recorded on VHS and still has the commercials on it, and I just want to see the commercials that cut to it. But and I have a couple people over on Instagram that all they do is kind of like send me the most recent dug up old 80s or 90s commercial. Jared, these are correct buys. When did Sobe die? I remember Sobe, man. What is the 80s in a nutshell?
Talking about commercials, I remember when I was talking to my dad about tobacco and tobacco advertising, and my dad talked about how tobacco advertising was absolutely ubiquitous, and he talked about way back in the 50s and 60s. He remembered, like, this was me as a kid driving around in the like early 90s, late 80s, something like that. And my dad said, like, I remember an ad for Kent. And it had its song that said, no, not Kent, for Salem. And they had a song, and the song went, you can take Salem out of the country, but you can't take the country out of Salem. And as an 8-year-old, that was burned into my mind. And then, like, last year, YouTube recommended something that was just 3 hours of New York radio, morning radio from 1973. And I heard the ad. And it was the song. It just blew my mind because, like, I know this song because my dad sang it to me. I never even heard it myself. And yet my dad sang it to me, and I remember that fucking jingle. And then there it was.
Guys, Cody and the gang are at the park playing football. Down, Darius Jackson. Let's go!
You're not going anywhere
Never.
without your big game liquid slam.
Excellent!
Go long. This one's going downtown. Whoa!
The colors, man. The neon colors of everything.
Yeah, the '90s neon thing, that was a real thing.
You gotta.
You guys remember Hypercolor T-shirts? Jared doesn't remember Hypercolor. Chris,
No.
do you remember Hypercolor? The T-shirt.
Of course I do. Yeah. I mean, I remember half of my closet was Power Glove shit.
No, you gotta finish this though. It's
No, I got a full team. Yeah! Yeah!
Liquid Slam!
Liquid Slam!
Come on!
Tough day, kids? Well, I've got just the thing. How about some big game pizza pig skins?
Yeah!
Hungry got me in a grapple. Big game pizza pigskin is my hunger that you tackle. All day, every day.
Touchdown, Mrs. D.
Big game pizza pigskins for your taste buds a touchdown. Sap your hunger with Big Game Pizza Pigskins. Pizza that tastes better on a football. Always is a flamethrower with adult supervision.
So much slop, man. We had so much slop. Slop.
We
slop,
really
slop.
did.
Yeah, we always had like liquid sugar encased in soft sugar gushers. Like for some reason they marketed this stuff as if it was like a lunchtime snack instead of just pure candy. So my mom was like, I won't put Skittles in your lunchbox, but here's some fruit roll-ups.
Horchata is not milk. Christopher's asking. RC is the best. We see a lemon lime. Somebody chimes in for lemon lime Gatorade. I did not have a favorite color of Gatorade. I hate Pop Tarts. I saw somebody, Jay Okerson or somebody saying, put butter on Pop Tarts and it's game changer. Oh no, it was Bert Kreischer was saying that.
If anything knows about what you should put butter on, it's probably Bert Kreischer.
Hypercolor. I saw Jay Okerson talk about he was taking all of his pictures from the 90s. He was a teenager and the rest of his family wasn't. And he says every single picture looks like right before we took a family picture, they called me over from the Wu-Tang Clan party that I was at, and I ran over to hug them as I was sitting there in all these hypercolors, like, here's me and the family, dudes. And then the rest of the family just kind of looked normal. Some other trash questions. How about stuff in the house? Was there any red or green carpet or padded toilet seats in your house?
No.
All of that stuff was around my world. My house didn't have, there was green and red carpet and padded toilet seats all over the neighborhood that I grew up in, for sure. And I bet you none of them have it anymore. It was all just like, whoever decided like that weird shag carpet and stuff was something to actually do.
Dude, I love shag carpet. Like, I'm sure it's disgusting and it gets dirty and shit like that, but I like it.
Did anybody out there ever drink the juice pops before they were frozen?
I would make them. The only time I could ever have the Otter Pops is if I melted them down.
Yeah. Oh, I definitely drank those before they're frozen. If those count. Yeah, I did that all the time. Oh, I'm trash. Ever been ran over by a car? Yes, me. I was.
You were?
Yeah, in high school. I had my leg ran over by some guys. We were driving around town and we were getting in the car and some girls drove by and my idiot friend took off before I was all the way in the car and it ran over.
See, I'm surprised I didn't with all this stupid shit I did, because I remember like going to this big vacant parking lot and I wanted to see how fast I could get on my longboard. So I just grabbed onto the inside of my friend's Jeep, like on the oh shit bar, and I was just like, all right, go. And he booked it and I was like, faster. We got up to 50 and I'm on my longboard grabbing the side of his car, just getting terrible speed wobbles, smacking against the tire. And I'm like, stop.
This one pertains to almost all Mormons around here. Ever cross state lines to buy fireworks? I mean, I think that's everybody.
Oh, yeah.
No, see, here's the thing, though. My uncle is a licensed pyrotechnic. I have an unfair access to explosives.
Oh. Are all of your belts reversible?
Some.
I think all of mine are.
I don't. I know. I know. I own a belt. I just never use it.
Mine are definitely. You don't use any belts?
No, I never wear belts.
Wow. I guess you haven't
Like,
been dressed
you
up in
have,
some
like-
years or something.
Well, because here's the thing, like my cousins. I remember my cousins never tied their shoes, and like
You
I
just
don't know
slip
if it's
your
like
foot
it's
in?
like a magical shape feet, like the shape of your feet. Like if you're just blessed.
It depends on
You
the
have-
type of shoe, because like I'll wear Converse sometimes. You can't slip your foot into those, But a lot of time, most of my shoes just don't have laces, so that's probably a question on there. That's some
Oh,
trash.
it's Velcro.
No, not Velcro. They're just kind of like slip on.
I miss Velcro, man. Look at this. Your wife says you sag your pants. It's hot. Oh, that's trash.
She's trash because she's into sag pants. Like she's seriously asked her. She found out that she told me like I think it's kind of hot when guys wear the gangster pants that like down halfway down their butt.
Oh, really?
Yes.
You if you like a wigger, you are definitely trash. Are you
from
trash
St.
if that
Louis,
Gatorade
bro.
was healthier than soda? For sure, you were trash if you thought that. In middle school, I set up a black market ring with my friends, and they would bring fireworks from Mexico. Trash.
Damn.
Ever use bungee cords indoors?
Well, I've tried.
I don't mean bungee jumping, like using those bungee cords, like keep doors shut and things like that.
Oh.
I think it's that. That's a trash thing for sure, and I've seen it in the world, but I never did that. Have you ever been in a feud with a neighbor?
I mean, when I was a
we were
kid,
shitty people, so all our neighbors didn't like us.
Christopher Rice is using a bungee cord indoor right now. He knows what we're talking about right there.
Do you ever drink Fresca?
Oh yeah. But that's
By
Fresca's
the gallon.
classy. Fresca's classy, man, classy.
I mean, if you drink it out of a wine glass, maybe.
Let me tell this story. Do you collect knives or have any ninja stars? I went with my buddy who was a missionary companion of mine, lived in Louisiana, and I went to his house in Louisiana. It was backwoods, and they told us that they knew a ninja instructor. And I was like, what? And so we went, and I was kind of like expecting to come across this like Japanese guy back in the deep woods. But no, it was Cletus, back in there, and he's like, yeah, I got trained as a ninja instructor, talking like that. And before long, all these Louisiana Southern boys were there in the middle of the woods being taught by this guy how to ninja creep around the woods. And for a moment, I just stepped and looked back at all these Southern Louisiana guys doing this ninja creep around the woods from this ninja instructor. And I was like, this is immaculate trash. This is the trashiest moment of my life.
I had my cousins when I was a kid. We went over to visit them in Tennessee, and they're talking about what to do if a home intruder come in. There's the 15-year-old cousin, the 14-year-old cousin, and then 12-year-old me, right? And they're explaining to us what to do, and they're like, all right, so here's the deal: if an invader comes in, Josh, I want you to grab your katana. And Josh's like, no, actually, I'm a lot better with my bow, so I'll grab the bow. You can use my katana, Shane. Shane's like, oh no, I got my butterfly knife. And he's like, wouldn't my katana be a little bit more useful than a butterfly knife? And he's like, no, man, I'm real good with my butterfly knife. Like, Jared, you're going to be in charge of taking the kids into the room. You take me into the back room. You don't open for no one know how. So I'm going to take him on with my katana and my bow. And I was like, well, aren't they going to have guns? And he's like, hey, man, when you're in close quarters, you got to do what you got to do.
The fact that we have these stories is trash, man. We are trash.
I also had a mission companion that told me that you actually run faster with your arms behind your back like Naruto.
He believed it.
He seriously did. And I was like, no, you don't. And he's like, you do. It's proven. I was like, what do you mean it's proven? He's like, me and my friends used to do it on the beach. I was like, wait a minute. You're from Rio, dude.
We
You
have
used
to.
to Naruto run on like the most famous beach in the world. And I was like, why don't they do that in the Olympics? And he sat there for a second. He's like, crap. He actually came around.
This is the first predictor of one of the questions actually on the list from the show. Did you ever own or wear Jinko jeans?
No.
And I definitely did.
I don't think I've heard of what jeans?
Jordache, man. I had Jordache
Oh.
jeans. I saw those.
The only reason we had Jordache is that
They're
my
cheap.
mom found them on like mega discount, and she saved $800 by buying them on discount.
Charles Wagner's son said his
she
son
made $800 by buying them on discount.
Charles Wagner said his son was Naruto running all through soccer playing, and he wasn't even a weeb. Have you ever named your car? Yeah, I named my car Spanky in high school.
I named my friend called. I had a shitty Dodge Neon, and he said he called it the penis on wheels. But it was supposed to be like an insult, like it's a shitty car. And I'm like, I don't feel like penis means shitty car, but
like the Dodge Neon is.
You're not a feminist enough.
But we called it the penis on wheels.
Oh, Bugle Boys!
Did you ever tailgate an event that you didn't go into?
No, my parents weren't nearly that fun.
I did that. Kevin and I did that. It ended up taking a whole jag of a night, which is a whole different story because I ran over a rock and got high centered on it. But we were driving up to a U2 concert, and none of us had tickets for the U2 concert, and we didn't have money to buy the U2 concert, so we were just driving up to like tailgate it and see all the people and stuff in the 90s.
Ooh, McClellan recently went to a U2 concert.
Yeah, in the dome.
Really?
In that dome in Vegas, or whatever, the Sphere. Have you ever used the gas station squeegee for anything other than the windshield?
No.
I mean, all the windows.
I don't think that counts.
Yeah.
Have you ever kept batteries in the fridge?
What?
My grandpa did that. My grandpa did that, and I was so confused.
Why?
People used to think that it saved the batteries.
I mean, I think there's a little
like meat, and they don't. We don't want to spoil the batteries.
I mean,
for real, yeah.
There might be something to that, but I think it's marginal. But yeah, I remember my grandpa kept batteries in the fridge.
Question back to the booze, Flip, and you can describe if this is classy or not. Have you ever put ice in your wine?
There are some wines that's totally okay, but they're generally cheap, crappy wines. Like if you did that to like a Bordeaux or a Burgundy or a Rohia or something good, you're a monster.
Did you ever peg your pants? I most definitely pegged my pants. We pegged pants and wore.
What the hell does that even mean?
You don't know what pant pegging is?
No.
We wear peg pants and wear penny loafers. I'll show a picture of it. You'll know what it is when you. But this was actually like the actual truth of when that was popular. Is like it had like 1 year, didn't it? It was like 1-2 years max that it was a thing, and then it went away forever.
Like rolling them up.
Continue on the ice.
Yeah, but there's a specific way of doing it.
There's one
girl,
of the 4 big champagne houses produces a champagne that they put ice in the name of it, and they say, "Pour this over ice." But they also make
because you are trash.
Sweet. Yeah, like it's a very sweet champagne, and it's designed to be poured over ice. But that's kind of a weird. That's kind of an outlier.
So here's the thing. I'm realizing that we were talking at work about different styles throughout the years, and I was the only like millennial in the room. There were kids younger than me and adults older than me, right? And they're talking about how like crazy baggy shit is coming back into style. And I was thinking of all this stuff that was in style. Yeah, I see that. That's actually coming back. 90s. There's some young kids doing that right now. But I'm looking at the styles that we had, and most of what we did was like we had shags that were kind of weird, and we did kind of baggy pants, and we like skate shoes and polos, and that was about it. Like there was a time when we put way too much hair gel in, and it was disgusting, but that's about it. I think that you have your outliers like emos and hipsters were very millennial, and they look fucking ridiculous. But
Most of the kids I remember doing it, they'd also kind of like wear like a loafer like this at that time frame.
Is there one in
There'd
there?
be a
for,
little bit of tennis shoes, but
there's a woman at work.
Is there a question for? Did you ever wear overalls with one strap loose?
Oh man, that was also around the same time frame, and that was only popular for like 1 year or two.
Yeah, no, I remember. I was in the 6th grade when that was a thing.
Yeah, that I was a little bit older than that, but it definitely was there for 1 year, and that's that. Although I'd still say that probably was like always a hot idea for the ladies. But have you ever owned anything decorated with bottle caps? Or do you consider American cheese to be cheese?
No.
Yeah, I don't think I consider that to be cheese either.
I don't mind it on like a ham sandwich or something like that, but
I mean, it's technically cheese,
yeah,
but it's
gross. It's like,
I mean,
it's like if you mix cheese and plastic.
Like in the world of cheese, it's called American cheese, and it's like that particular kind of plasticky American cheese.
Sure, but you're never gonna find it on a charcuterie board.
Do you regularly eat standing over the kitchen sink?
No.
I mean, I've done a lot of eating in weird places, but I don't think I've done it over a kitchen sink.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out why. That's because I'm not saying I'm not trashy. I'm just
I've thrown up in the kitchen sink.
Oh, for sure.
Do you save a Crown Royal bag? That's for you boozers.
I have a Crown Royal bag story that's kind of funny.
I would if I ever buy a thing of Crown Royal, I would definitely save the bag.
When I was like, I don't know, how old was I? Like 15, 16. Because I think it was before I had, I don't know, maybe I had a driver's license. But I had some friends because I went to alternative high school, so I had alternative friends. And I had a friend who had a friend. I met him through this guy, and this kid, you know how like every teenager was like, my parents are such shit. I hate them. They're crazy. Like he would say this, and I was like, oh, come on. Everybody says that. And then I met his parents, and I was like, oh, because like he had run away from home when he was 15. And that's why like he was a runaway. And it was after this story that I met his parents, and I was like, oh, you should have run away. Good job running away. You did the right thing. But so one day I was hanging out with a friend. We'll call him Alan. And I was hanging out with Alan, and we'll call the guy who should have run away from his parents, Jimmy. And Jimmy was hanging out, and then Jimmy just left. And I'm like, and I said to Alan, I'm like, where's Jimmy going? He's like, don't worry about it. Well, it turned out that Jimmy went to burgle a home because he had a tip that people are out of town. So he burgled this home. And he came back like a few hours later. He took the bus to burgle. Very environmentally conscious. And because like, and I was a Mormon kid this whole time. I just hung out with weird people. And he came back and he had this backpack full of shit that he burgled from this home. And he opened it up, and like there was a bunch of CDs, there was a couple of walkie-talkies, there was a firearm. That was creepy. But then like he pulls out this Crown Royal bag, and we're like, what is it? He's like, I don't know. It just was in this bag and it looks cool. And he opens the bag and he pulls this thing out, and it's this cylinder, and he pulls it out part way, and it's like this like cylindrical thing, and it's got like on the end is like a black knob, and he's reading it, and he goes fast, slow, off, and he pulls it out a little further, and he realizes, as we all realize, that it was a vibrator. And he threw it like it was on fire. And I started laughing like, you fucking stole somebody's vibrator?
That's so funny.
What is the matter with you?
That brings up a funny trash story that I have.
That's my trash story.
My car got stolen like 4 or 5 years ago. And when it got stolen, I almost wasn't going to report it because it was so old. I was just done with it. But I went ahead and reported it. And it turned out the guy who stole it went out on a robbery spree. And on his robbery spree, he robbed a Blue Boutique. And when he robbed the Blue Boutique, he and the hooker that he had in my car got caught. And when they got caught, I went to go retrieve the car. I didn't have a car, so I had to call my steak patriarch dad to come help me retrieve the car. When we went to go retrieve the car, the people who were going to give me back the car had to go over the items in the car to see if they were mine or belonged to the Blue Boutique. So I sat there.
Did Black Dildo yours, Mr.
I
Hanna?
sat there for like, he had about 40, 50 items in the car, standing there with my steak patriarch dad as cops who couldn't hold in the giggling. It was like South Park cops, like, is this one yours? Is this one yours? It's like, it was dildo after dildo after dildo after dildo.
Holy shit, that's
me
awesome.
standing there with my dad saying, is this one yours? No, that one is not mine. Is this one yours? No, that one is not mine. Is this one yours? No, that one is not mine. And that's totally 100% real.
I had I remember, and this happened on an episode of Louie. So it was it was hilarious when I saw the episode because it already happened to me. It was when I was going to, Morgan had flown to St. Louis to see her family, and I was flying in later. So I get to the airport, not used to airports. I put my bag in the thing, and they're like, we got a lot of liquid in there. I was like, oh, sorry. And then this lady takes it out. She's like, what do we got here? And she's, what is this? And I was like, oh, lube. She's like, what? And I was like, it's like lubricant. And she's like, what do you mean? I was like, come on. Are you fucking with me right now, lady? And she's like, no, what is it? I was like, it's lubricant. It's flavored lubricant. I don't. What do you want from me? She's like, okay, well, you got too much of it. What do you want to do with it? I was like, well, I would like for you to throw it away and for us to walk away and never remember this again. And she...
Look at this. Cheese's food. Cheese is only cheese on burgers. Holes in jeans, flannels, guns wear baggy. Who these kids are thinking with their mom jeans? Oh, those mom jeans are terrible.
Oh my god.
That is classic SNL. You remember the SNL?
Oh yeah, one of the funnier SNLs. And they really look like that again. Those girls really dress like that.
Yeah, it makes you look like your ass crack goes like halfway up your spine.
Me, who's somebody like, I've always prided myself on having very age appropriate attractions, but it's helped that these young girls have taken up the grandma mode because like thanks gals, except it's the wrong direction. You girls look too old for me to I'm still age appropriate, but you guys look like 90-year-olds, so thanks. Let's see here. I use cigar tins all the time too. Only to share my bottle cap collection. No nasty whiskey. I would. Charles Wagner says I have kids, but only to share my bottle cap. He does have a bottle cap collection. All right, here's a story. My daughter came home with a pink vibrator that someone put out in their bulk trash on their curb. She thought it looked cool. My completely sheltered wife didn't know what it was.
Oh, that's nasty.
She was like 5. Mad TV was the trash version of SNL. This podcast, if you listen to it, Bobby Lee pops up on it and talks about his trash upbringing and stuff like that. Man, yeah, Mad TV was trash.
It was so bad. Like one thing I remember hating Mad TV when it was on the air, and my only memories of it was that they did a gag that was a direct ripoff of Simpsons. They did the Lowered Expectations.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they directly ripped it off. And I don't even remember what it was, but I remember watching them and they directly ripped off SNL. And I thought like, okay, so the two funniest things you did were ripoffs. And I thought it was just
Key and Peele came from them. Artie Lang came from them.
Yeah. So like apparently there was some diamonds in the rough back there.
Well, what's her name?
At the time I never appreciated it.
Alex, what she's now the voice of the person on all the Seth MacFarlane
Alex
stuff.
Bernstein. No.
And then there was
I
think you're close. Yeah.
The Alex the Lois on Family Guy.
Bobby Lee became big and like a bunch
of weird connection that I remember. Was it Alex? Whatever,
Brian Callen it is that plays
whatever Alex it was that played
Alex
that plays
Borstein.
Lois on Family Guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
Borstein. Is it Borstein? Because she said that in junior high, she went to a private Jewish junior high, and she said, I remember this in an interview. She said that her bus driver was John Malkovich.
The real one?
Yeah, apparently. Like, I never verified this. I just remember her saying that and going like, "What the fuck?"
It wasn't
But,
somebody
okay.
just being John Malkovich.
Catherine Keener was there too.
Wow. There's actually like a lot of weird little people on SNL who ended up, what's his name? The brother of the Saturday Night Live. I can't remember his name. There was a lot of different people who came through there, but it still was kind of trashy crap. I mean, but people came from it. So, Kids in the Hall, the funny version of SNL. You ever thought like how impossible it would be to do Kids in the Hall nowadays? But one of the things I've always wanted to pull up is like they had like this episode riffing on wokeness in like '92, and
oh my god, that's amazing. But because I'm going to England soon, so I went to the bank and got weird English funny money. And I keep thinking, like, why'd they put Scott Thompson on all their money? That's so weird to them. Like, I mean, I appreciate it. Scott Thompson is absolutely a jewel of the British Commonwealth, but it's weird for him to be on all their money.
Look at this. If you still had a black and white TV in the 90s, I did have a black and white TV in the 90s.
We had a black and white TV into the early 90s. We absolutely did.
So
in fact, I remember
weird.
because my dad and I would watch old school Doctor Who on his little black and white TV.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, there's a bunch of other questions, but we could go. Did you ever play air guitar on a pool stick in your life?
Oh fuck yeah!
I for sure did too.
I played air guitar on all of it.
There's nothing I haven't played air guitar on.
I'm really fucking good at air guitar.
Have you ever owned a turtle, frog, or snake?
No.
My neighbor owned a tarantula that he lost in the house.
Jesus.
Yeah, a bird-eating tarantula.
Jeez.
The truth of it, like they never found it, but the truth of it is like it could only live outside of it, like it's like extremely hot climatized tank for so long. But the like 1 hour or the one day that they didn't know where it was in the house, they had to evacuate the freaking house.
Oh God. Is it dangerous?
Yeah, if you're they're I don't know how poisonous they are or not, but they are super hyper aggressive, evil. They're called like bird killing tarantulas.
So you're talking like the Goliath bird eating spider?
Yeah, he had one of those lost in his house for a day.
How do you even get one of those? Those are like Australian.
Yeah. I have some other memes and stuff too, but I don't know if I want to hit the memes. Just ask the last of the questions. You brush your teeth in the shower?
Yes.
I don't think I've ever done that.
I absolutely do that.
I have.
Brush your teeth and drink beer in the shower.
Definitely drink beer in the shower. That's shower beer.
I remember like for me, I remember the moment like the moment I'm like, I am a grown up making my own decisions is when I was drinking beer in the shower.
Have you ever gone to the implosion of a building? I have in Vegas. I went and saw like one of those.
Well, in Vegas, they have one every other day.
And they're usually big, wild, fancy.
Some weird looking building.
That reminds me of that when they imploded the casino on The Simpsons. Like,
yeah,
like, oh man, it's cool to watch an implosion. The guys are implosion. They all have to run.
But what was it? I don't know, 10 or 11 years ago. Like, me and my girlfriend at the time, we tried to fly to Chicago on standby tickets to see my little sister, and like that was my one and only experience flying standby. And we flew to 3 airports all day, all over America, and we ended up in Las Vegas when somebody finally told us like, oh, there's no way in hell you're making it to Chicago. So we're like, all right, fuck this, we'll stay in Chicago. And so we're like, well, we better book a room. And so we found like a cheap room, and it was at the Luxor, and we're like, oh, that's weird. Like cheap room at the Luxor. I thought the Luxor was fancy. What a piece of shit! Like it was like within the year before they blew it up, and I was like, holy shit! What shoddy workmanship! Like you could walk around and see cracks. Like it was so ridiculous, and I was like, because as a kid, you're like, you see it, and you're like, oh my god, that's like amazing, and like you have no idea. Like Chicago construction is the most slapdash, like taped on bullshit. It's such garbage. But that was like it was at the Luxor. I remember I played poker and I won $110 in 1 hour. That was good poker.
This is King of the Hill, Savage Hipsters and the Woke. Yeah. Christopher Rice had snakes and fed him mice. Commodore Jensen owned a bull python. And cutest little friend. That was cool as an 11-year-old. Yeah. I installed a garbage disposal in the shower. Whoa.
Wait.
You're going like next level trash.
It's a reference.
Oh, what is it?
That's a reference. That's Seinfeld. Remember when Kramer cooks in the shower?
Yeah. I went to a demolition derby this year, saw the crowd, and felt super trash. That is trashy. Demolition
I've never
derbies
been to one of those, but here's the thing: I've never been to one, but I want to go to one.
I think I've been to
this
one.
day, I thought the Luxor. What you were saying? The Luxor's still there. Like, what are you?
I thought it was gone. Isn't the Luxor gone?
No, the Luxor is the pyramid.
Yeah, the pyramid one. I thought they blew it up.
No,
I was there like more than 10 years ago, and seriously, like it was comical how.
Are you thinking of the the Luxor? The Luxor. I was just there. The Luxor was there. I was there like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. But it's the pyramid one. Are you thinking of the Sahara?
No, it was absolutely the Luxor. I thought they blew it up. Is it still there?
It's still there, and that one's
like,
kind of
no, like,
it's relatively.
remember,
it is a junk place, but it's relatively new.
Is it? Because like I remember being shocked at what
the Luxor was built when I was like in high school, so it's like that's relatively.
No, that's why I remember being shocked because like this is a relatively new building.
No, they didn't take it.
Why did I get the idea that they blew it up? I mean, maybe I was just there and thinking like, well, this must be on its way out. But like, because I remember like literally seeing like you'd be walking along a mezzanine and you would see cracks in the workmanship. Like in the wall, you would see like 2-inch gaps. Like you could tell it was supposed to be like a flush joining and there was like visible gaps.
It turned into an afterthought of a place overnight, man. It really did. But those places are getting a little bit of a boost nowadays, that and the Mandalay Bay, because the Raiders football stadium is right behind both of them.
Oh,
that kind of helps them both out.
I know that my biggest poker hand, not in winnings, but in quality of hand, I got a king high diamond flush.
You did?
At the
straight flush?
I got a king high diamond straight flush.
You've had a higher hand than I've ever had. I've never had a hand.
That's the best hand I ever had. Is I had a king high diamond straight flush at the Stardust, and I think it was a week before they blew it up.
I have.
And here's the thing, though. This is the how the poker gods are such fucking assholes. That's the best hand I ever won. I got $50.
Oh yeah, well,
like,
that's usually what happens in a game is that if you have like a really good hand, it's kind of too strong. But I've played so much poker in my life. You could not imagine how many hours of poker I played, and the highest hand I've ever had, I think, is like a 7 high straight flush, which is pretty.
That doesn't make any sense because the best poker players I've ever seen in my life,
they always get the straight flush when it's time. That's what drives me nuts about like every single time you watch like James Bond do it or something.
No, I know. I remember watching that In Time game, that movie with Justin Timberlake, and I didn't know anything about poker or anything at the time. I don't know a lot now, but I remember watching him gamble everything, and then finally the last card is played and it gives him like a straight flush or some crazy good hand like that. And I was like, okay, I don't know much about poker, but I know that doesn't make you a good poker player.
Yeah, but it's usually shown as like you're staring each other down when you've already got your hands. And if you have the best hand in the world and you're staring each other down, there is some hard, like what Flip was talking about. It can be difficult in that situation to not show your excitement, but the real thing that would be awesome that if they ever did it is show them making an extremely difficult call for a lot of
Yeah,
money.
no, that's
Like
one of the
all
things
you
where,
have is an ace high, but you still think it's
Yeah.
the best hand.
that how TVs and movies get poker wrong in a million ways. The first one is like every single dramatic depiction of poker has string betting, and string betting is not allowed at any
It's
poker
illegal.
table anywhere.
You can't just re-raise.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, there was like, oh, they won with the big hand. Like, that's not impressive. Anybody can win with the best hand.
Well, you don't have a choice but to win with the best
is the
hand.
one who wins with garbage. That's
Yeah.
what makes a good poker player, is if you can win with shit. That's how you win
Then
at poker.
there's always like a concept too of like that. I'm gonna bet you $500 I have the best hand, and the other person only has like $300 in front of them, and they're like, "Oh, I need to get enough money to have $500 to match him."
I'll put
You go,
my
no, that's not
car
how that works. You don't need
Yeah.
to add to your thing to match the $500 bet. He's
Yeah.
just put your money all in, and
Yeah.
stupid.
That's one thing that bugs me. It's like, as much as I love all the Star Trek Next Generation poker scenes because they're good character development, it's terrible poker.
This is all about the bluff, but at the same time, too, to me, if you watch like pro pokers and like highlight reels, the toughest things ever done was correct calls when your hand wasn't very good, but it was better. To me, especially for a lot of money, that stuff, Matt
Rounders
Damon's
is good.
Rounders was good. And there was some good pokers in what was that one with Eric Bana and Robert Duvall. I mean, they at least played poker right, but it wasn't a very good movie.
But they at least played poker right.
But
It was
they
a
at
good
least
poker
played
movie. It was
poker
a
right.
terrible dramatic depiction of
Yeah.
anything. Ow.
But yeah, the toughest thing to do in poker is call when you're just barely better than somebody. And
Has
that-
Eric Bana been in anything in like?
he fell off, didn't he?
Yeah, I remember like he was.
Fury Road. He was in Fury Road, right?
Was he?
Wasn't he? Isn't that Eric Bana? Am I crazy?
No, that's
No, that's somebody else. Sorry.
Oh, he's not
That's
the main
Tom-
character. Tom
Tom
Hardy's the main
Bombadil.
character.
I don't
Tom
know. Yeah, there
Bombadil.
we go.
Eric Bana
Eric
was
Bana
in
he was in the Hulk when I was a kid.
Hulk. He was in
And he was
Troy.
in I think the last movie I
Is
saw.
Eric
him in
Bana was
the
Eric
Time
Bana's
Traveler's
breakthrough
Wife.
was as the villain in Star Trek Nemesis?
That wasn't
Is
his
that right?
breakthrough, but he was that. But he was
No, I
already
mean, sorry,
kind
it was
of,
supposed to be his breakthrough, but that movie was terrible.
but he was already kind of broken through. He had already done Troy by then, I think.
Hmm.
Troy was a huge movie when that one came out, and he played the guy that Troy killed. But I think his big thing was in Australia. He was supposedly like a big soap opera star before he came here, or something like that, or maybe even like a comedian. He was a Zelensky. He was in Hannah. Is that Hannah the
Hannah
the
and her
movie? That was
sisters?
the movie. No, there's one called Hannah that was about like this girl assassin who she's like
Oh.
girl James Bond.
I'm just guessing that Hannah and her sisters is better than Hannah.
Yeah, he's been in. I mean, all the stuff recently. I don't know what the Hack Out Back, The Dry.
Wow,
The
his name
Forgiven
is Eric Banadinovich.
Dinovich,
Oh, really?
are you trying
Dinovich.
to hide your Slavic origins, Mr.
Well,
Bana?
but it's weird. Yeah, he's from Australia.
I don't know
guess-
that story about how so many Yugoslavians ended up in Australia, but that is the thing I'd like to know. Because like all of Australia's best soccer players are
Really?
of Yugoslavian extraction. Mark Viduka, for
So
example.
let's end this up with some McClellanisms and
Yay.
talking about
Fuck.
what pizza. Well, it's the same subject because I'm just pulling out this one
Yeah.
here. The thing we pulled up at the beginning. Elon Musk says pineapples on pizza is the best thing ever. And Dan McClellan says this is profoundly ignorant and dogmatic statement from someone with no relevant expertise or training that flies directly in the face of all overwhelming and long-standing consensus of scholars of the relevant fields of study.
Like,
Oh my gosh, he's such a winner.
like
What
if
so
you
what's the
wanted to
scholarly
make a parody of somebody who was exactly wrong on every point, you couldn't do it. And this guy is entirely sincere. He really, really means it. Like if I was trying to make like to mock him and like, oh, I'm gonna do a caricature of somebody who's just fucking full of shit, I couldn't come up with what Dan just came up with.
Yeah.
Well, and it's not even like the original tweet was like people should have guns. It's like it's important to
Guns are an
arm
important part of
people,
democracy. Yeah.
and that's
Should
like a
Hamas have
complete
guns?
Sure, but that's a complete opinion though. And Dan McClellan is like, actually the experts say
There's no
no.
experts.
The
Yeah.
science says no. It's like, what do you mean the science says don't give people gun? Like that's like saying the science says you're not actually allowed to eat grapefruits. Like, what are you
That's
talking
one of
about,
the
man? That's a
things
weird
in the
opinion.
zeitgeist about lefties that I like beg people to pay attention to is how many times they cock their heads back and appeal to experts that aren't there, that don't exist, that aren't even a thing.
But not
but-
only do those experts not exist, that expertise can't exist.
Yeah.
Like by virtue of what expertise is. Like expertise will tell you the best way to do a kickflip. It won't tell you if you're allowed to do a kickflip or if doing a kickflip is a morally acceptable thing to do.
But in a weird way, it's like a
imagine the uncontacted tribes of the Amazon who are all armed with spears and bows and arrows. Should they not have those?
Yeah, but and it's like there couldn't be guns as part of something that protects a sovereign nation. Like somewhere down the line, there has to be guns protecting it, even if it's not every individual person, which Dan might be contesting. But
Should
of course,
should
his
Hamas have
dipshitted-
guns?
Yeah.
Dan, I want to ask Dan McClellan: is it okay for Hamas to have guns?
I want to ask if it's okay for Ukrainians to have guns.
Well,
Yeah,
remember,
should Ukrainians have
Jared,
guns? Why or why not?
You shared that post of like the paragliders, and you said this
yeah.
is why I have an AK-47. You know,
Yeah.
and should those guys have had guns, Dan McClellan, when those Hamas paragliders were coming in?
If 10% of those ravers in that Israeli rave had guns, could they have resisted the mass murder that had happened there?
Yeah. But that
they would have
appealed
made
to
it worse.
That appealed to expertise and data, which isn't there or isn't true. Like their data is so incomplete all the time too, even if they claim to have it. That is their version, like Dan McClellan, who ostensibly is a religious person, yeah, right. But this is the way he cocks his head back and invokes God. He cocks his head back and invokes experts that don't exist, or he cocks his head back and invokes data, which is actually just as vague as a religious person's God.
This is his version of priesthood discernment.
Yeah.
He has the power of discernment given to him by the magical higher power that he believes in.
But
that gave him power.
Let's twist it back into the discussion on trash or not. Since Dan McClellan's wrong as usual, what is correct pizza? Is pineapple correct? Do you fold it? What is the best pizza? What is the worst pizza?
I really just don't
my
like all that
pizza.
much.
I have even though I'm not a big pizza fan, my signature pizza, like for American style pizza, I like what is it? I like pineapple, pepperoni, and jalapeno. That's the flip pizza. But
like
that's
the
assuming
white
everything is made
sauce on it.
correctly. I prefer a thin crust, pineapple, pepperoni, and jalapeno. That's my pizza.
You ever had Brazilian pizza?
When I was down there, like that's one thing I tried to explain to people. Like, did you have the dessert pizza they made?
Oh yeah.
Like with bananas and cinnamon on it, cheese, bananas, and cinnamon. I
Yeah,
tried to
what?
explain that to Americans, and they're like,
What?
So, like, if you go to Pizza Hut in Brazil, you can order a dessert pizza, and there's no
my
tomato
God.
sauce. It's 4 cheese, banana, and cinnamon, and it's awesome.
So what a lot of what they'll usually do, if you don't go to like a Pizza Hut but buy it like locally or something, they'll split it into like either halves or 4 segments, and you tell them what you want on this half and that half. And like I remember on one half we had just like this weird gooey sort of cheese and chicken hearts.
Oh,
And
I
then on
love
the
chicken
other,
hearts.
and then on the other half, it was completely a dessert pizza. It was like just a shitload of chocolate, so much chocolate that it makes the breading on the bottom like meaningless. And they have like they garnish it with like full Kit Kats, and then it has
I never had any of that.
stuffed crust.
I never had that. I only had the 4 cheese.
I want to be one of those
Jared,
podcast fat
When you were in
guys
Brazil,
who says the first 43 times I tried this, I didn't like it. But by the 44th, I got into that dessert pizza, man.
did you have bolo de brigadeiro? Because that's a thing that doesn't exist in America that is just heavenly.
Bolo de brigadeiro.
Like brigadeiro cake, where instead of frosting, it's brigadeiro. Like
What is
instead of the layers
brigadeiro?
of frosting between the cake, it's all brigadeiro.
I don't even know
Like-
what brigadeiro is.
Wait, where were you in Brazil that you didn't have brigadeiro? The
Southern-
chocolate caramel thing that is ubiquitous in every Brazilian household?
He was in upper northern Glasgow.
What the
Brazil,
fuck?
man.
No,
I
like
was in-
brigadeiro, like there's
I was
nothing
in-
more Brazilian than brigadeiro.
Oh,
Like,
I see. Yeah, I have had that.
yeah, no, you had that. But yeah, bolo de brigadeiro, like that's one of those things that's like, yeah, it doesn't exist in America. And I just love it. Because most frosting on America, this is my thing about Brazil. Like Brazil's cake game is light years ahead of America's cake game. Because part of the problem with America's cake game is that frosting, American frosting,
I like
almost
American shitty
universally
frosting because I'm
blows.
trash.
Oh,
I'm
I hate it.
trash.
I
know 'cause
Brigadeiro and Lua frosting is
I like the
1,000 times
cream
better.
cheese trash frosting. I like.
Oh,
I like a
God.
Costco cake.
Cream cheese
crab
frosting is all right, but
You like that frosting that comes in
I like
the
the
room
dry
temperature
cake.
paper cup at
Give
the
me a
supermarket?
Costco. Give me a shit Costco cake all day.
I usually scrape the frosting
trash.
off of cakes here, man.
Yeah,
no, I'm trash.
Brazilian frosting is 10,000 times better.
No.
Yeah.
Because
And
even
I
if it's not
hate
brigadeiro, it's
I
better.
hate tres leches style.
I
cake.
love tres
I
leches.
hate
Oh, I
drunken
love tres
bread.
leches.
I like my bread dry, and I like my cream cheese shitty.
Because you and I were talking about this, where like Mexican desserts almost universally suck, with the exception of flan and tres leches.
I like
those
tres
are that's where Mexicans redeem themselves.
Mexican,
They're like those
Mexican
vaguely
bakery.
sweet, chocolatey, pastel colored bread things.
Mexican
they call
bakery
dessert.
stuff is shit. Although
it's
I'm
so bad.
sure there's some like top-notch people at it who can make each one of those things well that you'd
Yeah,
like
like
them.
I would like to see like
but-
the Mexican, like the paragon of the chalky
of the styles, like who
the
makes
chalky
the
pastel
real
covered
deal
bread.
concha, who makes the
Yeah.
real deal.
Oh,
I don't know, kind of
'Cause,
idea.
like I've had concha, and it's like, wow, why did you dry this bread out and not put enough sugar in it?
Because it's all supposed to be
weird.
dunky. It's all supposed, but at the same time, too, you bring any Mexican up here and start like feeding them like Cheesecake Factory, their teeth will curl in 2 bites. They're like,
This is the thing that like I remember my mom saying as when I was young, because like my mom was Brazilian and her mom was German, and my mom always said the German bakers are the best because they use less sugar and no salt. Whereas
Yeah, I
all
came across
American
a German
baking
baker
is
who-
huge sugar and lots of salt.
It's for sure
And-
sugary, and that's what I love about it. But I came across a German baker who tried to insist to me that because he didn't use that sugar, that all that bread stuff he had was 100% healthy, and I should be able to eat it and stay ripped.
Well,
Like,
it's
man,
not
it's
100%
still
healthy, it's
carbohydrates, dude. But
It's
yeah,
been a
we're
long
way
time, but-
sugary here. We're
Yeah.
way sugary. Probably
That
the sugariest place in the world.
Siegfried died, I don't know, in the early 2000s, but before he died, at Siegfried's in Salt Lake City on Friday and Saturday, you could get a real, genuine, honest to God homemade Berliner, which is a raspberry jelly filled German donut. And they were the best things ever. They cost 55 cents. And yeah, only Saturday, Sunday, and you had to get to Siegfried's by 1:00 in the afternoon. Otherwise, they're all sold out.
I'm pretty sure
Ich bin ein Berliner.
when it comes to pastries, man, I know I am the most trashy, basic bitch American there is. Like I like
you don't like Pop-Tarts,
sugary shit. Well, no, I like Pop Tarts.
Oh, it was flipped. Okay.
Yeah,
I don't like Pop-Tarts.
I
hate
like
them. I've always
I
hated
like
them.
crap American bakery stuff. I don't like fine.
Yeah,
fruit
no, like that's one thing like I
and
got from my mom. is
sugarless.
I got a very European taste for dessert from my mom. Like my mom liked marzipan. You
But
know,
so
she
much
liked that kind of
because
thing,
like
and
any
coffee
European
cakes.
likes crispy cookies too. They don't like a chewy cookie ever.
You mean a
and I
biscuit.
like a chewy cookie. Yeah, and every guy
How you
who
like
likes
your chips,
European,
innit?
every European oriented person wants it to be basically like you got to bite it. Like,
Have you ever had a digestive biscuit?
Oh yeah,
Those are the best things ever. I love digestive biscuit. It's like the
Mm.
perfect level of not quite American sweetness, but still dessert like and cracker like and just perfect.
But most of the stuff in Mexico, I mean, really what it is and what we don't get as Mormons, especially when we were first exposed to it, is that so much of it is meant to be dunked and dipped and put in coffee.
Oh yeah.
Or
Choco
ates, they
flan
had
is
down in
nasty.
Mexico.
I don't think I've ever had a choco flan.
So you're
Here's
supposed
the
to
thing
have
that
like
makes me sad is that I think he's gone now. He might have been deported, but for a few years, the best flans available on planet Earth were sold illegally in a parking lot outside of a Mexican grocery store in Kearns by an illegal Venezuelan immigrant, and he sold flans for $10 a pie tin, and God, they were the best things ever.
Yeah, well,
Is
that stuff's
flan
supposed to be
a
dunked. It's
lot less
coffee.
because in Brazil they always call it pujing. Is flan a
Pujing.
lot? Isn't it a lot? Is the consistency any different in flan? Because
I think it's like a it's like a
close to
spectrum thing.
cheesecake, but it's
Like
it's
I
a
don't know
little
because
bit.
my mom made a
'Cause
thing that she called flan.
It's halfway
and-
between cheesecake and Jello.
No, but what I'm saying is they had the same thing in Brazil and they called it pujing, but it was like it was it felt like more solid than flan. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
flan's more cheesecakey.
I
And it's
mean-
got but like a Jello bite to it. But like every once in a while, that sauce they put over the top, man, you'd
No,
have it,
that-
and it was straight alcohol or whatever.
That's the thing about flan. Like one of the things that makes a perfect flan is getting that thin, watery, burnt sugar caramel thing.
And to me, that's usually the problem. Like sometimes, if it was bad, it was because of that stuff. If it was good, it was because of that
Yeah,
stuff. And
no,
it
like
almost
that's
didn't matter.
well.
What
That's
the consistency
flan
was.
is one of those things where it's like it's one of those things that's very, very, very simple in ingredients, but it's entirely about execution. You know,
But there
'Cause
are
there's some
sometimes
dishes
that-
like the ingredients make it good. The ingredients make it good no matter what. Flan is one of those things that like it and the artistry really shines.
There was times where that liquidy stuff was as bad as whatever shot of nasty alcohol I ever.
Oh yeah,
had
no, it
in
tastes
my-
like burnt coffee when it's bad.
Mitchell Clark asked if you do think he's really serious. That's the one that got turned into memes, which I think people should keep memeing it because Elon Musk is the perfect person to have as the meme person. But the original one, Elon Musk had said that guns are necessary for a democracy, and that's where Dan completely seriously gave that very Dan whatever answer, who's just a parody of himself. Charles gives one final word on booze to flip. If you haven't had rum from Foursquare Distillery in Barbados, they're becoming more available in the U.S. and you're missing out.
I want to find that because one thing is I'm in Utah and I can tell you through professional experience that there are no Jamaican pot still rums available on the shelves in Utah because Jamaican pot still rum is my absolute favorite. But any rum made in Anglophonic Caribbean places tends to be really good. Like the Zaya from Trinidad and Tobago is really, really good. But I really want to look that up. What's it called? Foursquare from Barbados? I gotta look that up. There's really good Demerara rums out of Guyana that I like an awful lot. But
full disclosure, I think McClellan is a douche canoe. Correct, sir. Sir Stoner, I love this quote. Experts have resoundingly agreed that I can project my opinions through them.
Oh, that's golden.
Yeah, you wouldn't.
That's Dan McClellan right there.
Pineapple plus jalapenos. Never tried that. That does sound good to me. I like pineapple on pizza.
Pepperoni, pineapple, and jalapeno. That's my. And here's the other critical thing: the jalapenos need
Canadian
to go
bacon.
on top of the cheese. You need to roast the jalapenos a bit to really get the best.
That sounds good. I would like that. Canadian bacon too. I don't like pineapple unless it's on something savory, and I actually learned that from Mexico. I learned that from tacos al pastor, and then later in Mexico, I found out they put pineapple on hamburgers, which I'm sure they were doing up here, but I didn't ever have it until I was in Mexico. And then putting on pizza. Like I don't like pineapple as dessert. I like pineapple as
I like just
savory.
pineapple.
Because like
eating pineapple,
I
can eat it straight
That's
for
the
sure
best way to
too.
eat it.
But I don't like it put into a dessert.
Brazil, like, because like in America, they're like, cook your fruit. If it's not an apple, fuck you. But like, because like, so I grew up with like cooked banana, cooked pineapple, and
or like Indian food with raisins.
Wood-fired pineapple. God damn, that's the best thing ever.
Oh hell yeah, that's the best thing. When
that's
they
so
come
good.
around with the spits and they're like pineapple abacaxi.
Pineapple abacaxi.
But any of that stuff in a dessert, like raisins, I hate dessert. I like raisins and savory stuff.
Yeah, no, like I like raisins and curry, like raisins and cookie.
raisins
God
and
damn, I
salads.
hate you.
I hate it in cookie. I like it in salads and curries.
I like it in salads, yeah. I like it in
Curry?
salads and curries.
You don't have
and
raisins in like Indian curry?
Oh my
No.
god, it's
That's
just the
so
perfect little
good.
touch. It's so
It's
good.
just like the pineapple and stuff. It's so good. Yeah. Pizza Pie Cafe in Utah is trash, but has some awesome dessert pizzas. Chicken
those are-
gizzards aren't bad. That sounds trash.
They
Damn,
are
damn,
trash.
that give us
I
a good
love
time.
chicken hearts. And here's the other thing about eating chicken hearts is if you eat something's heart, you absorb its power.
Yeah.
Well, if
So
we
I've got
ever
like
have like
500 chicken power in me.
Oh,
if
dude, I got
ever we
so
have
much
like an
chicken.
eating drinking get together, we'll have to do the trashiest night ever. The trash, taking out the trash. We'll call
I
it
don't want to
taking
do
out
trash.
McClellan's
I
trash.
do want to do porch time scotch and cigars.
Hell
I
yeah.
think that would be a good episode.
Whatever we do, if it's classy or not, we'll make it trash because we're trash.
No, I mean we are trash.
We'll do
but
scotch
Dry
and
ass
cigars,
cookies
but it'll be like Swisher Sweets.
No, man, I am actually classy when it comes to cigars. But, and I
That's the one
don't
thing, like,
get too classy on many things.
There's
so.
almost the only thing that I like as far as like things that go in my mouth that I say that I go to Chris Hanna for advice. That's it.
And I
That's the
stand
one
by that
thing.
too. I agree with Flip. Like, take Flip's opinion over mine, except for maybe on cigars. I just smoke them more than he does, so he would probably ask me about it. But at the same time, too, it's just stuff that I get kind of here locally in Utah. I'm sure there's better stuff in the world that I haven't really been exposed to. Some porch time night, you guys should do an urban legend, faith promoting missionary stories. Elders protected from demonic harm via their garments, Nephites visiting them. Wow, that'd be cool to do. I actually have a story of my own that I actually can't explain, although even as wacky as it got, I still just kind of think it was a just so thing that happened. But it happened. It for sure happened. Yeah, we should do that. Even with all the stuff going on in the world, I thought it was kind of fun to jag off and talk about Mormony or
It was a
trash
nice.
stuff.
That was a nice night.
Yeah, we got to forget about all the troubles in the world and all the goofballs in the.
My
in our
stomach's about to
atmosphere.
explode, so I got to get out of here.
Yeah, well, it's about wrap up time. I'm just gonna read the last of these. I'm gonna call it good. Flan is caramel. The caramel is why it's good. Oh lordy, eggnog rum. Well, I don't like any sort of thick alcohol. Like, add thickness to it, and it just makes it worse to me.
Oh god, eggnog with bourbon and or rum. I mean, that's my Christmas. That's
You
my
like
Christmas.
it? I don't know. Maybe Flip could show me a good one, but
There's,
like,
I mean, it's
me-
been a while. I got it was 10 years ago, but only one. I mean, because I usually just buy grocery store eggnog, but like it was sometime 10 years ago that a couple of friends and I we did the full on from scratch, like 2-day eggnog. Recipe.
That's one last trashy question.
Holy shit, that was good. The thing is, like, we calculated it, and we
Have
rough
you-
calculation. 8 ounces of our eggnog was like 900 calories.
One last trashy question, and we didn't do enough eggnog drinking as Mormons for this to happen that often. But did you ever ruin a holiday for the family?
Oh, I mean,
I never did.
So
I remember
last,
my mom
last,
throwing a can of paint into the kitchen floor on Christmas Eve.
Last year we were at the in-laws for Christmas, and that's when I went to Flip's store to buy alcohol and forgot my wallet. But
Oh yeah.
But I had like 2 coffee thermoses full of screwdriver, and I about ruined it for Morgan.
Yeah, that's why I say vodka is
You
for
lost
drugs.
it.
That's your
You
problem.
No,
Vodka is for drugs.
They don't. I don't know. Her siblings understand when I'm drunk. Her mom doesn't really. Like she's always just like, and her siblings are fine with it.
Jared,
like,
why do
Jared.
you have to be this way?
No, they're all like, "Oh, wow, Jared's really friendly," and her siblings are all like, "He's fucking drunk."
I didn't know he low-rided his pants like that. It's a little bit extreme right now. Let's see. McClellan is a dude, bro, probably doing a threesome with the Lynn Gerard and Gerardi. Tacos al pastor. Oh, heaven God. Hamburgers with pineapple spice.
Tacos al pastor is just Spanish for shawarma.
It's delicious. Swisher
It's good.
sweets.
I
and
love tacos al pastor. That's the thing. I remember. Do you remember? Do you remember Sammy? I won't say his last name from
Hagar.
From when we were caterers. big
Oh, yeah.
fat Mexican dude,
Uh-huh.
because he talked about how his dad was a restaurateur in Mexico, and I remember him telling me about how his dad made al pastor, and he
Oh.
put a whole orange on the top of the pastor, and I just remember describing to that, and I want to go back in time to Sammy's life.
Tacos. There's a
Real
part
quick,
in Once Upon a Time in
Sammy, I have to tell
Mexico.
this story because it's one of my favorite stories about culture classes and Mexicans. It was like my first week in catering, and like I had gone from years of like office jobs, just sitting in a chair, or driving jobs, just sitting in a car. And I went from that to catering, where you're on your feet for 14 hours a day. And I was like a week into 14-hour days, and we were like in a little pause. And I crouched down and I was like rubbing my legs. And Sammy, the Mexican immigrant, said, "What are you doing?" And I said, my legs are tired." And I'll never forget it because Sammy looks at me and he said, "You Americans and you're tired. I was in my 40s the first time I ever felt tired." And I was so ashamed. I'm
You
like,
want
"You're
to know
fucking
what
right."
though? I just dealt with some complaints today from some immigrant workers who have as bougie of complaints as you ever heard from a Gen Z person.
Are they
I mean,
Mexicans?
the world is different. Yeah, the world is different. They know that
Oh,
they can
wow.
complain at anything right now.
Did
but
they get 3 weeks of college and now they know they can bitch about
yes,
society?
yes, but it's also just that younger generation. But it was just as much of a bougie
Christopher
complaint
Rice,
as I've
I
ever
want to. One of my dreams, in fact, maybe we'll make this work because there's World Cup games to be played in Mexico City in 2026. And one of my bucket list items is to see a proper soccer match at La Azteca. But I have read about and watched documentaries about the tacos árabes in Mexico City, and that's a thing I want to try.
Well, the tacos al pastor, they're freaking amazing too. But
I
all
mean, they're
the
kind of the
tacos
same thing.
are
Like taco
amazing.
árabe, taco al pastor, like they have a common ancestor.
Mm. There's so much good, and you just got to try them all when you get to Mexico City, and they're freaking amazing. And every missionary ever who goes there goes, "I should go back and just open a restaurant of this back in." Well, that was before they actually got here, 20, 30 years ago. Good cigars, Swisher Sweets, and Fireball. Yeah, we should break out the trash one of these times and actually do a trash smoking, eating, watching time, and
I
get
send you
people around to
some
come to it.
trash on Facebook.
I just saw some
Yes, I
trash
do.
pop up.
So we're right about wrapping up because Charlie
Yeah, I
Dog
can see Charlie
is.
Dog's ready to go.
Let me see. I'll go to this trash real quick and
Here's
this
some trash. We should go to one of
final
these.
oh goodness gracious! Oh goodness gracious! Did you see that Victoria's Secret saying they're going back to attract the models? Well, they really did.
Is that how
said
they
are.
said it?
Like,
'Cause
it's kind of
that would
funny.
be
Like,
really
those
did.
fucking, like, remember when Playboy's like, "We're not going to show tits anymore," and then like 2 years later, like just like very quietly, like
we fucked up.
the tits.
Yeah,
are
they
back.
really did. But Jared's got some of them right here for us. Oh goodness gracious! I probably can't do the music. Oh my gosh!
This is
Why?
How do you wipe your ass?
Oh my gosh!
oh my Jesus Christ! That's the most running they have done in a decade.
Oh goodness, I can't. Okay. Well, Victoria's Secret's going back at least. Yeah.
Jesus Christ! All right.
Is that how
All
they
right,
said it
you
too?
bunch of garbage,
All
you
right.
bunch of garbagey trash Mormons, ex-Mormons.
Who's white trash? We're white trash.
Yeah. All right.
See you later.
Charlie Doggy, let go, puppy.
Bye bye,
Later.
Charlie Doggy.